We can do that with 2 meetings a month now. You ready?
We're ready.
Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. Ventura County Supervisors for January 15th. Can we have the roll call, please?
Supervisor Bennett.
Here.
Supervisor Parks.
Here.
Supervisor Long.
Here.
Supervisor Zaragoza.
Here.
And Supervisor Foy.
Here. We are going to move to our Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead you. Thank you. Hand over heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We now have the minutes of December 11th. Continuing for 1 week. All right. That was.
Second.
We have a first and a second. We can all vote. Okay. We'll move that. We'll move to our agenda review.
Thank you, Chair Foy. Consent agenda item 16 should be heard under Healthcare Agency, VCMC, not Behavioral Health. On items 28 and 33, there are PowerPoint presentations submitted. There's an addendum agenda item 42, closed session before the Watershed Protection District Board, conference with legal counsel regarding the Central Delta Water Agency versus Watershed Protection District in Sacramento Superior Court. And then finally, addendum agenda item 43, policy matters, recommendation of Supervisor Foy to appoint and reappoint individuals to various committees and commissions. And
Okay.
that's it.
That's it? All right. Anybody else have anything else? Okay. Can we then have a motion to, as our agenda's been amended? Second. Vote. Huh? We have one more, Steve.
Bennett, push your yes button. Thank you.
Okay. That's passed. Then we'll go on to our consent agenda, items number 10 through 26. Anybody have anything on that?
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask a
Yes.
quick question on item 21.
21,
Just
okay.
really some comments more than anything else.
Okay.
And maybe or this is on the market redevelopment, recycling market development zone. And this has been going on for about 10 years, is that correct?
Do you have somebody who wants to come down and answer questions? Yeah, okay.
So this is just a renewal that has been happening for about 10 years?
Well, actually, the program, good morning. Bruce Belusky with the Solid Waste Division, Water and Sanitation Department. Actually, the program, your board originally approved the program in 1993, and yes, it does require renewal every 10 years, and that's what this item is today.
And a $0 cost, to the county, and
Yes.
it's all paid by the state?
Well, we have some state funding involved in marketing and outreach, and there's also some of our current funding, which we've already budgeted for to offset about a third of one full FTE for the administration of this program.
And the reason I bring this up, because I remember Stan and I worked on this when I was with the city of Oxnard many years ago, on the AB 939. Well, actually, it was a low-interest loans for businesses, to help our business in that zone. So it's a good program.
It's a fantastic program. Since your board approved it in '93, there's been over 40 companies that have received both direct and indirect funding in all of your supervisorial districts, over $26 million.
And it's really, really good for business. So I just wanted to commend you for that, because it's an excellent,
Great. Thank you.
excellent program.
Could I ask a question? VCOG is the one that oversees the plan Is that correct? In terms of the diversion schedules for the different landfills and countywide? Not necessarily the marketing for business, but just in terms of diversion of trash from landfills?
Well, VCOG serves as our local task force for our countywide siting element, and diversion is a component of the countywide siting element.
And I was wondering, because there's talk about VCOG maybe disbanding again, if that were to occur, would that responsibility then come back to the Board of Supervisors?
I believe it would. We would have to comply with the state. We would have to find some other entity that could serve as a local task force, as the program currently exists.
Is that a pretty big effort? I'm just wondering how important it is.
No, it's not a big effort. It's pretty straightforward, mostly administrative in nature. Right.
But I just want to ensure that this is a very highly successful program, that recycling, and it really helps the businesses with credits and so forth. And I just want to commend you for that. So.
Supervisor Long, you have a comment?
I do have a comment since you brought it up, Supervisor. And the end of this month, we'll be doing a significant check to a company in Santa Paula. And that's what this program, it's $1 million check, that what this program brings into the community.
That's right.
And they work closely. We're connected now with the Economic Development Collaborative, so it's RMDZ works.
That's correct. A
Right.
nice check of over $1 million to Santa Paula Materials.
Right.
Wow,
Look forward to it.
that's great.
Just want to thank you and Collins and Pratt's office, for that.
And I just want to recognize David Goldstein of my staff, who has effectively managed this program since it began in 1993. An interesting point I do want to make is that of the 35 zones throughout the state, the zone here, which represents all of Ventura County, is by far the highest and most successful zone in funding per capita, and in total funding is second only to LA County, so it's quite an achievement, and we do a very successful job here locally.
And I just want to commend you for that, because I just wanted to bring it up because I remember working on this program many years ago when it started, but it continues to be very successful and to help our businesses too.
Absolutely.
And provides a lot of jobs.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Supervisor, I appreciate Supervisor Zaragoza bringing us up, and I just want to mention, you mentioned David Goldstein. He's just got to be one of the most enthusiastic recyclers in the state of California. Nobody has more infectious enthusiasm about it, and I just want to thank him. He actually makes it fun for people to talk about recycling.
I concur 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
Michael Powers, you're doing a good job. That's another one of your... Thank you so
Other
much.
way, that's right. Good. Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up, Supervisor.
Absolutely.
Then we'll
Thank you.
continue on our consent items 10 through 26. Do we have a motion?
Yes,
you have something else?
And I just got a note from my staff on item 24. They made a reference that it should be the Arundel Dam, not the Arundel Barranca. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's a change that doesn't make a difference, right, in terms of item 24, but it is just solid. So it's seconded. All right.
I think
Mine says damn on it.
I'm going to second it.
Okay. All right, so we passed consent. Let's go to public comments. We have a lot of speakers today, so we're going to limit our comments down to 3 minutes. And Roberta, do we have our first one? Are you putting them in, or you want to tell me? I don't see them either, current speakers. All right. Our first speaker will be Mary Hornwood. Wand? Oh, there she is.
Hi, my name is Mary Horn Wood. I live at 5885 La Cumbre Road in Somas, California. I'm here today to ask for your assistance in protecting me and my husband and our neighborhood from poisonous pesticides. This past year, Mars Farms began farming the land adjacent to our property and began spraying restricted and non-restricted pesticides. As a result, we have lost several animals, and I am concerned with the long-term welfare of my other animals. Many have developed coughs as well. My husband, who is 96 years old, and I have lived in this wonderful neighborhood for over 30 years and have never had any complaints or concerns with living in a rural area. We just love it. It's so really great. It was an orange grove for years, then a Bordier's nursery, and in that time they sprayed pesticides, and it never bothered anyone until Mars came and began spraying their berries. We have gone to the County Agricultural Commission and have filed complaints to them for our protection, which have gone unresponded to, and they have acted towards us with deliberate indifference. I was under the impression that the CAC was there to protect the people and environment so that farmers and residents can peacefully coexist. I feel that CAC only supports the farmers without any regard to how it affects the homeowners they encroach. Remember, we were here first in this case. I hereby request that the board conducts a hearing into the CAC's lack of action and to remedy the damage that is being done to our neighborhood. I also request that an immediate buffer zone between the farming operation and our properties be ordered. This should be no less than 300 feet. And I urge you to please put our human health in front of the profits of the farmer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Ms. Tilly Peterson.
My name is Tilly Peterson. I am a retired teacher. I have lived in Ventura County for 32 years and at 5981 La Cumbre Road, Somas, for 15 years. I moved to Somas because I love its rural atmosphere. Our previous farm neighbor provided our community with a 300-foot no-spray buffer for 11 years. The new farmer told us and others in both written and oral statements that only organic materials would be applied near our homes. Our reliance on these misleading statements has caused our injuries and illnesses. On June 21st and again on June 30th, Bob Flores and I were engulfed in 2 applications of pesticides which saturated our property. It took CAC until August 1st to notify us that we had been exposed to a restricted material and to dusting sulfur which was sprayed against the label. We were misled for a month about the products which injured us because neither CAC nor the farmer provided us with this critical information as we desperately sought medical treatment. In direct contradiction to DPR guidelines, CAC made no contact with us until 11 days after they learned of our exposure, failed to document our frequent complaints, did not collect soil samples for 2 weeks, did not collect vegetative and swipe samples for 30 days, told us repeatedly that their hands are tied and that they have no power, and have never acknowledged that we have been exposed. I am not the only complainant, but even if I were, CAC has the duty to protect me, my family, and my animals against ongoing pesticide exposure during their investigation, which has lasted 6 months. Due to constant pesticide exposure, we have become hypersensitive to chemicals and pesticides. Our life is a nightmare both inside and outside our home. We can't taste food. We taste only the bitter, metallic taste of pesticides. My newly created health issues include irritation of my respiratory system, throat, and nose, possible chemical irritant asthma, sudden and continuing weight loss, chronic fatigue, headaches, and gastrointestinal distress. About 4 months ago, I lost the ability to speak in my normal voice. CAC has done nothing to compel the farm to stop the ongoing exposures to our community. Who is going to help us? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bob Flores? What's that look like to you? Rick Wong?
Good morning. My name is Bob Flores. I live at 5981 Lacumba Road. I'm a retired horticulturalist from the Ventura Regional Sanitation District, landfill operations. I currently hold a QAL, a qualified applicator license from the California Department of Pesticide Regulations. I am also a third-generation Ventura County resident. Both my grandfather and my father farmed in Santa Rosa Valley on land leased from Mr. Adolfo Camarillo. I love farming. It's in my blood. But when a farmer makes a conscious decision that the health of his plants are more important than the health and safety of his neighbors, then I have a problem. The community of Somas has a problem. Yet the reaction we get from CAC is that of deliberate indifference. And because of this, we now all have a problem. CAC has a duty to make sure that the health of the citizens of this county are protected from the exposure of poisonous pesticides used in ag applications, and yet for the last 6 months, Henry Gonzalez, Rudy Martel, and Heidi Wong have failed us. For the past 6 months, we have been breathing poisonous vapors from the adjoining farm, and CAC and the farm's response has been to do only superficial acts to impede the poisonous vapors escaping from the hoop houses only 20 feet from our homes. CAC's deliberate indifference in responding to this community's continual exposure to this poisonous vapors is mind-boggling. CAC's slow response to our initial complaints and its continual indifference on our ongoing complaints and exposure has resulted in illness and injury to our health in the short term as well as the long term. We need your help. We need your help now, and we need your help today. Before someone dies from the continued long-term exposure to these poisons that we have experienced. But for the continued deliberate indifference shown to us by CAC and the farmer, the continued poisoning of our property, our animals, and our bodies would not have continued since June of 2012. And CAC's investigation on this matter would not have dragged on for over 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rick Wall?
Good morning. Thank you for your indulgence in this matter. I live at 6033 Lacumbe Road in Somas. Fortunately, my family has not suffered the exposures that our neighbors have. I have triplet 4-year-olds. That's a handful in itself. And a daughter who's entering puberty, which, as we know, with exposures to chemicals, it can create lifelong problems. The issue that I have is not necessarily that of my neighbors. My issue is with the CAC. And as been demonstrated, and I'm very specific in the language I use, the absolute deliberate indifference by the county agriculture commissioner in addressing these issues. For example, when these issues first came up in late June, early July, several neighbors, and I'll speak for myself, I met with members of the CAC on 3 different occasions. My wife and I asked them, do we need to make a written complaint? Do we need to make a formal complaint? oh, no, this is the complaint. You've told us the issue. We understand your complaint. Fantastic. August 22nd, we had a meeting with Mars Farms and the CAC. CAC advised us that they had been in contact with DPR, the Department of Pesticide Regulations, and they were working with them. They advised us that they had requested equipment from the DPR to conduct air tests, and that request had been denied. And they also advised us that they had been in contact with Public Health and were working with Public Health on this issue. After not really believing them, I sent Freedom of Information Act requests to the DPR and to Public Health. And DPR not only had no record of any contacts, but they absolutely denied that they had ever been requested equipment from the CAC, nor had they ever denied a request from CAC because they never got one. Minimally, they've been disingenuous. At best, they've been flat out dishonest. The Public Health had no record of ever being contacted by the CAC. So these are issues that we have. And part of that Freedom of Information Act, you'll be surprised to know that according to the CAC, the red-legged frog is not an endangered species in Ventura County. Anybody who's been involved in any of the planning knows that that's absolutely not true. CAC has now been advised of that and is working on that. On October 5th, my wife went down to CAC to get a copy of our complaint to find out there was no complaint. They had lied to us on all the occasions that we said that we were making complaints. They've refused to meet with us. We've sent numerous correspondence to Mr. Gonzalez asking for meetings. He has not met with us. The bottom line is, what we're asking for is the Board of Supervisors to conduct a review of a couple things. Number one, the CAC's operations. Number two, the CAC has acknowledged that they have no written guidelines for conducting investigations, or at least they've told us that. They have not provided them. If you're responsible for investigating complaints of pesticide poisoning within the county of Ventura, you should have guidelines. I think that's a very simple request. And then lastly, we're specifically asking that you take a look at the review process and the complaint process and how they conduct their investigations. And I thank you for your time. I apologize for going long.
That's all right, Mr. Rowe, thank you. All right. Mr. Segerson, C-E-R-E-G-S-O-N. I don't know how he says his name.
I'm actually speaking on behalf of Sharon because she was unable to be here. And I just have a brief written statement that she sent. It says, this is from Sharon Gregson. It says, I have lived at 5951 Lecumberri Road in Somas for almost 40 years. The main reason we bought this property and chose to live here was because of the surrounding agriculture and rural life. My husband and I are both retired and spend most of our time at home. In the past year, we have had several unexplainable health conditions. We have both been hospitalized along with our adult daughter who lives here as well. All three of us have had a drastic loss of energy and we find we are tired most of the time. We no longer have the energy to do normal day-to-day activities. We have all been to several doctors and no one can tell us for sure what is the cause of our health issues. As an example, I have never been one to go to a doctor or need to go to a doctor. I was not a sick person and had lots of energy. This was an episode in late June in the past year where I had gotten so weak and exhausted that I had been taken to the emergency room. They admitted me to the hospital and did numerous tests. I was diagnosed with pneumonia. Later I found out that my neighbors had the same symptoms and several of us that bordered the Mars Farm property were sick at the same time after a heavy spraying that we were notified of. And animals were sick and dying. One of my neighbors was diagnosed with pneumonia at the same time. I came home, could not get better, and as a result was admitted to the hospital again for chest pains. Breathing problems, weakness, etc. It just goes on. Although the hospital could not say for sure what the cause of my illness was, they ruled out all the known possibilities such as heart attack, stroke, and other such symptoms. My husband, who's 70 years old, has had one health problem after another this year. He's been hospitalized several times and has had several serious health problems. We all three have had sinus infections and sinus problems. My husband has lost some of his hearing because of the severe infections and the surgery he just had this past month. He's had several serious surgeries. In short, our lives have been drastically different this past year, and when talking to our neighbors, cannot help but feel it is more than just a coincidence. I have been shocked at the lack of concern on the part of Mars Farm. They have been told how my family and my neighbors have serious concerns about what they're doing that might be causing us serious health concerns. Even after the spokesperson from Mars Farms admitted they made a mistake in June and July and sprayed us with something they shouldn't have, yet they refuse to do any testing or stop what they are doing or even give us a buffer. I have made several complaints that somehow do not get recorded, and this is to the County Ag Commissioner. I have been interviewed by a couple of people from the Ag Department, and those too get lost. I have given detailed reports to people that not only not do anything, the next person I talk to hasn't heard the previous reports or interviews. In other words, no one seems to care about my health, my family's health, or the health of my community. Please take the time to check out the serious situation. Sharon Gregson, 5951 Lacumbre Road, Somas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And then we have Eric Anders. You going to come do yourself?
I'll stay up for a while.
Yeah.
Again, these people wanted to be here. They just cannot attend due to illnesses and other issues at the time. This is from Diane and Eric Anders, address 5802 Lacumbre Road. We would like to share our concerns concerning Mars Farms operating on Donlin Road in Somas. We have grave concerns over their use of pesticides and other chemicals with no regard for the local residents. There is no buffer area to protect the residents that have been there much longer than Mars was. They are using a wide variety of chemicals with no regard for the environment or safety of humans and animals. We have been very disappointed about the fact that when a meeting was set up with Mars to be held at their office last summer, no one from Mars even had the courtesy to come to the scheduled meeting. We request that Mars Farms' permit for the use of all chemicals be denied until this issue is resolved satisfactorily with the Somas residents. If Mars insists on ignoring us and poisoning us, then they have no right to operate in such a negligent manner. Hopefully they will not incur medical bills and lawsuits stemming from the disregard for the environment and the residents of Somas. We have lived on Lacumbre Road for 42 years in harmony with all the farming community until now with Mars. This needs to be addressed immediately. Sincerely, Eric and Diane Anders. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Our next one is Brad.
Well, you just did this timely, didn't you?
So let me. You just have a whole bunch of.
I am the last one.
You
so
are
let me
the
get
last.
my notes because those are the only.
Okay. Okay, he's reading letters from everybody else. Okay.
We do appreciate the time of the board. You know, you guys are very, very busy, and
No,
this
this is what this time is for the public to be heard. So.
My name is Brad Neems, and I live at 6012 Palomino Circle in Somas. I used to live in Thousand Oaks. Ms. Parks knows that I've been involved in a lot of things, trying to help the community out for many, many years. Moved out to Somas for my family. My family has autoimmune disorders. My daughter has a fatal autoimmune disorder. We went there to get the fresh air, a wonderful area, and to be able to live a life that is something not usually found in urban environments such as LA County. Even Ventura County is getting tougher with the growth. But SOAR is very, very important to our family, and it's very important to our neighbors. And we're not here to incumbent that issue. We want SOAR to expand. The sustainable growth issue, we want those parts to be there. We want the farms to be there. It is not something we're trying to eliminate farms. It's trying to make sure farmers are held responsible for their actions. I know many farmers. They're all very, very structured in how they work with their neighbors. They're very entrenched in making sure that the life that they provide their neighbors is as positive as being next to a farm, which you get the wonderful smells of the fresh fruits and the fresh vegetables and having the view and the visibility. It's just a wonderful thing. But I'm here today to ask for your help. I want you to protect my family, my pets, my neighbor's health from the current poisoning that's gone on this last year. I've been here for 8 years, never had any issues. I've grown up in agriculture, grown up with livestock. My family is entrenched in that. My son is a member of the the FFA, I mean. You know, he's very much into this stuff, and that's why we live here. Unfortunately, this past year, the property that is adjacent to our home is being farmed by the Mars operations. No concern with that. We'd love to have farmers as our neighbors. But the deliberate indifference that they took in how they spray, in what they spray, and the fact that they don't take into account weather conditions, they don't take into account the spray, the fact that it continues to drift and continues to poison. My horses have been sick this past year. My daughter has missed more school than she's been in school. My family has headaches. We're so hypersensitive because of the poisons that even the organic stuff is now killing us. If we go and at least get away, I mean, I know people like Tilly who can't even move far enough away and heal. We can get away for a few hours and breathe fresh air, and all of a sudden we start feeling better. It's that big of an issue of there. I had the Ag Commissioner, Andy, one of the supervisors, come out. He goes, I don't smell anything. I said, come over to this side of my property. And he smells rotten egg, he smells sewer smell, he smells all these things. Well, how do you know that's coming from this? Well, where else is it coming from? We've been there for many years. I thought I had a gas leak. I called the gas company out. They came out and said, no, it's not gas. It's something coming from your neighboring farms. I mean, it's that big of an issue. We need the Board of Supervisors to help us. I know I'm taking a little extra time, and I apologize. I was expecting 5 minutes. We need the Board of Supervisors to help us. We need a hearing. We need some immediate action. The County Ag Commissioner has basically been worthless and hiding under a desk. There's no oversight. That's what you guys are here for. There's nothing been done whatsoever. I filed complaints, nothing was done. The only time my complaint got notice is when I went down to the County Ag Commissioner's office and basically said, here, stamp it. And then all of a sudden, oh yes, we've got it. But 6 months is ridiculous. There should be a timeline, there should be somewhere where they're held responsible that they actually do this. And we're just hoping that something can be done to help us.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we have Janet Lombardo.
Good morning. My name is Jeanette Lombardo, and I am here today on behalf of Mars Farms. We are disheartened that several neighbors of the Martinez families in Avery Ranch have come here today and placed into public record comments on an open case with the Ventura County Agricultural Commissioner's Office. Mars Farms feels that it is more appropriate to wait for the County Ag Commissioner to issue their final report on this matter before responding to any claims that have been spoken here today. We are confident that this report will show that the complaints filed against Mars Farms are for normal and customary agricultural practices that are addressed in the right to farm ordinances that were passed in this county in the late 70s. If there ever was a matter that affected the health of the public in any way or in any regulation not adhered to in this very heavily regulated industry, this county's agricultural commissioner would have already taken the required action. Mars has been working with these few neighbors for quite a while now. They have listened to their complaints and have gone above and beyond being a good neighbor by implementing costly mitigation efforts that legally they are not even required to do. These concerns include transitioning into practicing organic pest control methods in Site 53, Block E, which is a part of the farm along the property line with the La Cumbre Road residents. Mars even tried a test plot, low-profile hoop houses for a section of this block, which had to be specially ordered and offered less productivity. They installed a plastic sheet barrier at the end of the hoop houses, which faced the neighboring properties, to minimize and prevent any odors or spray drifts from moving off-site from within the hoop houses. They provide 24-hour notice to the neighbors and the Ag Commissioner's office prior to applications in Site 53. They have planted a vegetation screen or shelter belt of shrubs. This screen was planted all along the length of the property between Mars and its neighbors. The Mars Farms has been in business for over 22 years. Not once have they had complaint filed against them. Their reputation in the industry and this county is impeccable. They farm over 2,000 acres. They follow the terms of their conditional use permit issued by this county, all the rules of the various regulatory agencies, and have continually tried to fulfill the reasonable requests that are asked of them of their neighbors. They will continue to work towards resolution of this matter, and that is why I was retained by them just this month in January. And I have already started to meet individually with the 29 neighbors surrounding their properties. I thank you for allowing us to respond, I see I'm out of time, to these comments, even in this limited manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Look like I have two more cards. Justin and Pamela Adebayo. Both of you? Yeah. Okay. And if there's anybody else who wants to speak on this after they're done, bring up a card.
I'm just going to read from my... hello, my name is Pamela Atiabi. I live at 5869 La Cumbre Road in Solmus. I am here to voice my concerns to the Board of Supervisors in regard to Ventura County Agricultural Commissioner's Office, who acted with deliberate indifference toward our complaints and well-being. The County Agricultural Commissioner's Office has been disingenuous with my complaints of Mars Farms since 2011. The County Agricultural Commissioner's Office has met me with a total lack of concern for mine and my family's health and suffering. We have lived here for 12 years with never a concern. Previous tenants of the property were also facilities that used pesticides that operated in such a professional manner that they had no effect on us. I feel the County Agricultural Commissioner's Office has been calculating with Mars Farms against myself and my neighbors for their own self-interest. County Agricultural Commissioners have failed at their jobs by allowing Mars Farms to abut their farming operation to established properties in Solmus. County Agricultural Commissioners did not enforce the required buffer zone. I get notification emails from Mars Farms at least 3 to 4 times per week with a notice of intent for a pesticide application next to my property. My family and I can no longer enjoy our backyard because of pesticide drift. Our swimming pool, hot tub area constantly smells like rotten eggs or a gas leak. My husband has COPD. He is being poisoned by the noxious fumes coming from Mars Farms. I fear for his long-term welfare at this point. My family and I are asking for a minimum 300-foot buffer zone. This is a normal requirement for a new farming operation that sets up on a lot next to established homes where there is no vegetative screen. County Agricultural Commissioners should regularly go back and read their own mission statement to protect, promote agriculture while ensuring the welfare of the public, the industry, and the environment. I sent my first complaint about Mars Farms and concerns of a buffer zone to Agricultural Commissioner Henry Gonzalez on September 16, 2011. The County Agriculture Commissioner's Office does not take my complaint seriously. Thank you for giving me this time to speak.
Thank you. Sir?
Good morning. Thank you for letting me join in late. My name is Justin Atiabi, and this is my mom, Pamela. My family which consists of my mom, dad, myself, and my daughter. We live over at 5869 La Cumbre Road, like she mentioned, which is a direct neighboring property to the Mars Farms facilities. And you can tell she's emotional, and I heard a couple other neighbors are here pretty emotional about this. And I knew in our experience there was some actual legitimate health concerns, but I really didn't learn until today that we're not the only ones. So I'm kind of surprised on a new level to learn that. But I didn't really come with anything prepared. I just wanted to be here to support my mom and my family as well as the neighbors, and just voice my feelings and concerns, in a short 2 minutes regarding this matter. And that's basically the first thing that comes to my mind is, like my mom mentioned, my dad. He has a disease, COPD, which is a lung disease, and he has made quite a lot of proactive adjustments in his lifestyle to, better himself and kind of stay away from, for example, job sites with a lot of dust and debris. He quit smoking a long time ago, and he regrets that ever starting. But for him to be exposed to a possible pesticide or any sort of noxious fumes or toxic things in the air inside his own house and in his backyard and property, out in the horses. And he's the kind of guy that just gets home from work and grabs a bucket of water and goes out to water all the plants, and that's really his kind of getaway thing and stress reliever. And to me, to learn if he's possibly exposed to these sort of things, that's a direct no-no for anyone that's diagnosed with a lung disease such as COPD is really shocking. And really, really makes me feel concerned. Besides that, my mom and daughter have also experienced sort of out of nowhere really weird smells in the house, and they can't identify where it's coming from. But my mom uses a calendar, and I wish I could do as good as she does. She's always just writing little notes, little memories, and then weeks later, my daughter and her found out that on that day there was a pesticide spray. And they feel they've identified that that's why they had this pinching feeling in their nose and in their sinuses. These are really simple people, my parents that being, and it seems like a lot of the neighbors here are really simple people. I myself am not the type of person that sees something, any sort of neglect, that I want to just go hire a fleet of attorneys to go get, whatever maximum settlement I can. I, along with my parents, just kind of want what's right and to protect the health and just continue living based on the rules that were probably set forth for good reason, and that's to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
Well, certainly, to me, we have our Agriculture Commissioner, Henry Gonzalez. If you would speak to what we've heard. I know you've missed some of it in your transport over here, but these are legitimate health concerns that residents are experiencing, and a big concern is the delay, as they see it, 6 months for an investigation. We need to see that report immediately. I wonder if you can come and try to address some of these and let us know when this investigation is going to be completed.
May I speak to the chair? Just a reminder that under the Brown Act, this is public comment session, and the board and staff's very limited and what they can discuss if it's not agendized.
Right.
In general, the board cannot discuss or act on any matter not on the agenda. There are limited flexibility, and this is from the guidance from the Attorney General, just so it's in context. But if a matter is not on the agenda, the board or its staff may briefly respond to comments or questions, provide reference to staff or other resources, request a report back, request the matter be placed on a future agenda, ask questions for clarification, that's ask questions of the public commenters, make a brief announcement or a brief report on his or her activities. So there can be brief response by staff, but there can't be, detailed discussion of the matter unless it's on a future agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
I would just, with that guidance, I would just ask our Ag Commissioner, Henry Gonzalez, to provide a brief report and whatever information you're comfortable sharing within those guidelines.
And, Mr. Chair, maybe this can come back as an agenda.
Yeah, I mean,
item.
and he may want to say, let me bring it back, too.
Well, good morning, Chairman Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. This is very serious, the number of complaints that we've received from the folks, many of them here today. And we take all complaints very serious. We will even investigate anonymous complaints. A complaint over the phone, not leaving us any name, but giving us enough information where we can go to the site where the problem is occurring, and we will investigate. In this situation, we have received it's not one report that we're working on. It's many, many different reports. And it becomes a little bit more complicated when we get more complaints on top of those complaints, which we have to capture all of that information for our investigation and for our final report. And we will do that. And I have been pushing staff to complete this report. It just needs to be done correctly.
May I ask, every time
Yes.
you get a new complaint, it seems to delay the report. Is that correct?
Well, it just adds to our burden, so to speak. We just have more to do. We can't just wait because we need to capture, if there's any evidence that we need to capture, we need to capture that as soon as possible, including testimony. We need to capture that testimony while it's still fresh on people's minds and memories. That's why we have to go out to the field. And we're also monitoring some of the applications here. And of course, we have the rest of the county and all the other applications that we have to also respond to.
Well, it just seems evident to me because of the sheer number of complaints that there is a significant issue, that this needs to be addressed, and the delay in the report is keeping it from being addressed, is what it sounds like.
I believe you're correct. I cannot comment on parts of the investigation because this is an open investigation, and until it is complete, I'm very limited as to what I can say.
And we cannot direct you either as the board, is that correct?
Yes, the Board of Supervisors does not have statutory authority over the Ag Commissioner's work in regards to pesticide use enforcement. By statute, the Ag Commissioner follows the direction of the Department of Pesticide Regulation. My staff has been working with the Department of Pesticide Regulation on this series of complaints and illness reports. And we've asked them to monitor some air samples, but they have declined to do that. We are still working with the Department of Pesticide Regulation and following their lead. Yes, it's not the Board of Supervisors that can they can ask me, and I'm happy to do anything the Board of Supervisors can do. However, by statute, I have to follow the direction of the Director of the Department of Pesticide Regulation, which I understand some of the folks here have been in communication with the Director as well, and I've received that feedback from the Director's office as well.
Mr. Gonzalez, just real quick. Do you have just a ballpark sense of when you think the investigation report might be completed?
Well, the first one that we received, that one, I'm hoping we can get done within the next couple of weeks. I've read a preliminary draft. I've had to bifurcate that report from other reports because it's one report and then complaints, and they overlap, and so it's difficult to sort them out. Where do you draw the line? I've directed staff to bifurcate the reports so that we can complete them and submit them, because I also agree that that's part of all the issues that we're not able to finish the report. Yes.
We're pushing this discussion way too deep into what we're legally allowed to do here. You just have a comment?
Yeah, I don't think I'm pushing the discussion at all with this. I just appreciate you being here. I know you were traveling while some of the testimony is being made, and we can't direct you, but I just would request that you watch the testimony that was given earlier before your arrival. I think there was some testimony that's, as the Ag Commissioner, you definitely should hear, and I think you could understand why the board would want to have some response, some compelling testimony. The gentleman who has the triplets, he was making testimony specific not about the pesticide, but specific about interactions with your office. And I think that that's separate from an investigation, but his interactions and a number of other people, that's what I would ask you to please make sure that you watch and try to respond to.
I am happy to do that, and I will also direct my staff who's conducting the investigation to also view that the video in its entirety.
And I'm sure you know, if you find in your reports, and you have several of them, that there is a failure and there are health implications as a result, I hope you will act swiftly.
If, during the course of the investigation, if we find that there's a situation that demands immediate attention, we would do that. Even though the report is maybe not completed, if there's something, if there's a situation that we feel needs to be stopped, we will act swiftly.
Thank you, Henry. Appreciate that. Thank you for your comments, and thanks for coming out here. We thank every one of you for making your voices heard. You can see that we're just pushing the limits on what we're legally allowed to do, but you can see how concerned these supervisors are about the issues. So I'm sure that this will not go unheard. So thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on then. And I think, is there any other, nobody else wants to make a comment out there? Okay, good. We're going to go to board comments. Supervisor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to adjourn, first of all, in honoring the following individuals on this list. And I'd like to share with you that this last Saturday I attended the Ventura College Police Cadet Academy graduation at Ventura College on Saturday, and I'd just like to commend our Ventura College and our sheriff and Oxnard PD and basically all the police departments of the county. In fact, the keynote speaker was the chief of the Simi Valley, and did an excellent job, so I attended that Saturday. And also last night I had the honor of administering the oath of office to Dr. Lopez and Arlene Fraser over at the Oxnard Harbor, and it was well attended, and I was there on behalf of Supervisor Long and myself, administering the oath to Dr. Lopez, who's been around as a planning commissioner, as a council member, as a mayor, now as a harbor commissioner. And Arlene Fraser, as you know, most of you know, she really tried year after year to get elected, and finally got elected to the harbor board. So it was a great evening. And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chair. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Supervisor Long.
Yes, good morning and thank you. I'm going to start out with the adjournment memories I have. Unfortunately, the list is longer than I would like, and I suspect for many people that's the case in the 3rd District. Specifically, 2 icons of Santa Paula. One, Carl Behringer. Carl passed, lifetime Santa Paula Rotarian, active with Santa Paula Hospital, local businessman, former mayor and city council member, chamber president, VFW post commander, served in the United States Army and much more. And he and Kathy Behringer truly both are wonderful people who serve and gave back to the community many times over. Kathy's the founder and of the Santa Clara Valley Hospice, and I'm sure that Kathy and her entire family and the community are going to miss Carl, who's everywhere in Santa Paula. And then the second one in Santa Paula is Victor Salas Sr., another very active member of that community, born and raised in Santa Paula, United States Air Force service, and honored for his military service many times over. Businessman, owned Salas TV and with his family a couple other businesses. Very civic-minded, sat on the Planning Commission for many years, and his family has a street named after the family in Santa Paula. He, along with a couple other leaders in the community, began the Mexican-American Chamber of Commerce. So they will be missed by the community. And I attended, along with others, the retirement celebration for Laura Hernandez that took place last Thursday. And I only bring that up because it was remarkable that the former CEO of Alaska Airlines was there, Ed White. And he attended specifically to call out and thank Laura for her excellent work and compassion and guidance during, as this entire community went through the tragedy of that airplane crash here in Ventura County. And it just reminded me to, this year brings up the 13th year since that crash, and there will be a memorial service, as there is every year, on the beach at Port Hueneme, and the monument that was erected for the memorial for the Flight 261. But it was remarkable that Mr. White spoke and was still very emotional. And Steve Campbell was there too, the former police chief of Port Hueneme, who stepped in as a consultant to work with Alaska 261 families, and really has been with them every year since then. So January 31st will be the recognition of Flight 261. Reminder again that Tuesday, January 29th, we will have the 2013 homeless persons count, and I know that Meg Kimball Drury in the CEO's office is leading the charge on that this year, and calling on all the communities to identify captains of teams and to organize. And it's a very organized, structured outreach that goes into the streets early in the morning to count the people in our community who are homeless. So they're still looking for volunteers. You work only in teams. You count in specific areas. Training is provided. You must be 18 years or older. And anyone who thinks they have the time early in the morning, or others who can give that time, you can sign up on volunteerventuracounty.org to help assist with that. And a real quick comment on Santa Paula Art Museum, the Jeanette Cole Art Center. Santa Paula is becoming quite the little hub for art between the Agricultural Museum and this art museum on 10th Street, and the murals and many things in Santa Paula. But I wanted to call this out because it was the 5th annual Art About Agriculture exhibit. It has been announced, and it will be going on through the end of February. And two of the people recognized in this, and it is a juried show, and there were ribbons given, and one is John Christ, and he did a Frost Blankets on Mandarins for Best Composition in Light and Form. So our many talented John Christ, and he received an award for that. And Gail Pittick, who I think many of us know as one of the premier local artists in our community, for Goat in Field. So if you want to see some art and agriculture, it runs through March 17th at both museums, both the Ag Museum in Santa Paula and the Jennifer Cole Art Center in Santa Paula. And then lastly, can't let the day go by without commenting on the governor's proposed budget. I know all of you received the information, and I think one of the best briefs that was put out was the Urban County Caucus summary, and highlighting components of the governor's proposed budget, austere as it is, and maybe to some mystical. It's just, how do you go from this significant deficit to now looking at putting $1 billion in the reserve?
That's what they
But
call that,
you-
new math.
You need to read the details, and details include certainly projected increases in revenues and sales tax and other things. But one of the things that will be very important to us, many parts of it important, but I think the one related to realignment and healthcare reform, because it is, the governor's going to call a special session the end of January on this component, realignment and healthcare reform. I have agreed to step up to chair the Public Policy Committee for CSAC on this matter, just because I'm glutton for punishment. But it is important to us, and the proposal is going to rest on the counties being engaged in whether you have a state plan, as they call a state plan, or a county plan. And the governor's asking the counties to be at the table to discuss the pros and cons of which direction this may go, and basically saying whether you're going to shift things to the state, and as a result of doing that, there will be a different shift of revenues to us in other areas or responsibilities, such as full child care, foster care, things like that. And the well, I'll give you, there's certainly more details yet to come out on this, but it, and I'm certain our leadership team is looking at this, and I'll look to them to be at the table with me in weighing the pros and cons of how this shift may take place and what it will mean to our system. I think right now we generally feel that our system is so strong that we would rather have control and responsibility for health, for the reform to stay with the county, but I'm not sure. In fact, I don't think all the other counties are in that same position, nor do they want it. But there's going to be trade-offs made, and none of them are going to be easy trade-offs. Stay tuned. Special session. Mike, anything you wanted to, in your review on this?
Same, you described it very well, as usual. One thing to add is there's either, in terms of the health expansion for Medicaid, there's either the state approach to doing it or having the counties do it.
Right.
And if the county were to do it, we would build on our low-income health plan.
Right.
That's the ACE plan that your board has approved and the system is developed, so
Right.
it would be very natural transition for us.
And one quick other piece in the budget is the governor's is saying that there are 4 areas of mandates that they want to remove any longer as mandates because you, the counties, have done such a great job with them, they're no longer mandates, i.e. meaning they also don't need to be funded. And so there would be more discussion on those.
That's that new
areas,
math.
so.
Okay.
That's a little tricky one there.
Can I just, real quickly, supervisors, we got Dr. Bob out there, and he's got a thing here. I think we went early. Would you like to come up and finish your 40, if we can do that real quick, while you're sitting here? Sure. Get you through, get you out. Otherwise, we could be here another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I think we have enough time to do yours and get the supervisors. We'll get to our 10
Are you
time
saying
certain.
we chat too much? I'm finished
Just in case
now.
we don't. Well, you're done.
I am done.
Number 40, please.
Thank you. This is a regular agenda item, number 40. All right, and good morning, Supervisor Foy, our chair, and board members, and Mr. Powers. Healthcare Agency is coming before you to request a modification in the contract with the vendor that is helping us implement our QNext or Trizetto system for Ventura County Healthcare Plan. And this is an agreement with EBS Master, which also does business as MDON and Healthcare Technology Management Services. We often refer to as HTMS as we're talking about their work. And we're coming in requesting an increase in this contract. We're spending a bit more time in the implementation of this computer system. A lot of that is related to the complexities of moving from a DOS-based system, which the plan uses now, into a Windows and web-based system. And that creates a lot of change. And of course, the same staff that's working on this is working on several other projects within the health plan. We did, when we came to the board originally for this implementation,
Implementation did request $492,000 for these professional services. The original contract was at $387,000, and so we're coming back at asking for $603,000, so we're about $111,000 over, and that represents like 0.5% of the total cost of the project, and is still at this time within the contingency that we had requested. So the overall project cost is still in balance. And there are a lot of moving parts right now in healthcare, and particularly in our health plan, so we might come back in the future with some additional issue regarding reporting and expanding some of the services done within the computer system. But right now we're on track, and we merely need to make an adjustment and help from this contractor.
Okay, I understand these large things, they all have moving parts, and I know you have a contingency just for that reason. But you're pretty comfortable things are moving along as you hoped they would?
Yes.
I mean, as you can in one of these kind of projects?
Yep, and also that we're meeting important time milestones that we need for this next year to two with all the changes coming down the pike.
Right. And okay, that sounds great. I appreciate that. Any other questions, comments? Supervisor Long and second by Supervisor Bennett. Great. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Chat here. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. First, I appreciate the board's giving time to the residents out in Somas who are suffering, and would like to see further work in a faster fashion from the Ag Commissioner's office. So definitely we'll be on top of that and see what we have in 2 weeks. I know we were told that a couple of weeks ago it was coming, so there is some frustration there. Also, was sorry I missed the Laura Hernandez dinner. I was at the all-important VCOG meeting, and she has just done so much, and particularly working with her on the Emergency Council. And to that, I wanted to point out that Cal State University Channel Islands, I know, takes great pride in winning an award from the Emergency Council on their gas pipeline emergency plan, which I think is great that we have the awards, and also that Cal State Channel Islands was recognized for this great plan that they have. So what a great function for one of the many functions of that Emergency Council. Also wanted to announce that on Thursday, January 29th, I'll be having another one of my quarterly dinners. This quarterly dinner series, it's been going on for several years now, and on Tuesday, January 29th, we have Governor Michael Dukakis coming, and he's going to be talking about big money, secret donors, and democracy. And you can get information on attending this Michael Dukakis dinner, and it's specific to the recent decision, not so recent, by the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court on Citizens United, that resulted in really unprecedented amounts of money pouring in, campaign dollars, as well as undisclosed donors that are influencing our elections. So I think it's a very important topic, and if you're interested in attending this Dukakis dinner on January 29th, you can go to my county website page and get details, or contact my office, and we'll get you signed up for it. The cost for it is just the cost for the dinner itself at the restaurant. So looking forward to that. And then I would also ask that the Board of Supervisors close in honor of the people on this list. And I wanted to also add, though he's not from my district, Huelhauser. You know, the magic and wonderment he brought to our lives on his show California Gold was just precious, and I know he's very much missed by the nation, but I did want to recognize him from the county of Ventura. That completes my comments.
Thank you, Supervisor Bennett.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of the people on this list, and I just would point out I had the pleasure of listening to many tall tales about Hugh Hauser from some park rangers that ended up spending about 5 days with him as he was filming, and what kind of personality he has off camera versus on camera and all that. It just was very interesting, a remarkable guy. The second thing is I appreciate Supervisor Long mentioning to people about volunteering for the homeless count. There's always a need to increase the number of people that are doing it. It's a way you can contribute to your community, a way you can play a role in being involved in helping us solve the problem of homelessness in Ventura County by becoming aware of that. So I'd encourage people to follow her suggestions in terms of signing up to volunteer. We talk about, last week I talked about participatory democracy, and that those people that participate in the system have more impact than those people that don't, that only vote, and obviously people that vote have more impact than people that don't vote. But we are not just a democracy, we're a participatory democracy, and so I want to take this moment to compliment Supervisor Long. You participate lots of ways as an elected official, but to step up and chair the health committee for CSAC it's not something that lots of supervisors are stepping up to do at this point in time, and yet it is absolutely essential to getting health care reform done right in the state of California. And not just, I mean, I think a great system could be a potential hybrid system where the state runs it in counties that can't, and counties like Ventura County become a pilot program for how to do it. That is going to be much more likely to happen because of your presence there at on the CSAC committee, and you'll have a voice with the governor that other people won't have, and you've consistently done that with CSAC, and just want to recognize that and appreciate that. And the same thing's true across the board in terms of participatory democracy. We talked last week about gun control legislation, and an interesting fact that although the polling shows more people in favor of gun control of some kind, not all gun control, than those people who are opposed to it, there's no question that the people who are opposed to gun control are participating much more in the debate right now that's taking place in the country. They have more influence as a result of that. I think we have to recognize participating is a key part of making democracy really work. Finally, I'd like to just point out some pleasant things happened in my district in the last week. I was able to attend the Teacher of the Month recognition at Balboa Middle School for Charlotte D. Paola. She was completely shocked when they announced her name. It was really fun. But a hotshot teacher who was a history major who became a math teacher, and now because of the recent changes, they had a couple history openings, and now she gets to be both a history teacher and a math teacher. It's a very unusual combination, and she could just feel the enthusiasm from her. I also had to miss the Laura Hernandez event because I was representing the Homeless Commission at the VCOG meeting that Supervisor Parks talked about, and happy to have gotten that kicked off, and to know that the 10-year strategy to end homelessness plan will come back to the board here soon, but will also be going to each city in Ventura County in the hopes that everybody will sign off, and we can have a coordinated countywide effort at the city level to do that. I would point out I wasn't able to attend, but the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging presented Generation Silent, and it was filming about a population, elderly population, that is populated by lots of gay and lesbian people, many of them who were early fighters in the battle, now finding themselves suffering from much more social ostracization, and it's a population that I think we don't think about as much when we think about the gay community, and they have unique challenges that we need to be aware of. Two other quick things. There was a going away party for Martha Zier, a remarkable member of our community who organized two great political campaigns, real grassroots, classic participatory democracy out there, and we're sorry to lose her to Texas, but I would say to Governor Rick Perry, watch out. There's somebody coming from Ventura County that's forced to be dealt with. And then finally, I got to visit the Search Dog Foundation yesterday out at Wheeler Canyon. That is going to be a remarkable facility when they're finished. I just want to point out one thing that's sort of the final thing that they will construct will be an environmental dome. And you might say, what are they talking about, an environmental dome? They're going to be able to completely control the environment so that they can put the handlers and the dogs in these extreme environments of extreme cold, extreme heat, severe noises, emergency sounds. I mean, so they can really authentically recreate an emergency situation so that the dogs and the handlers can learn how to work together in the midst of all of those other distractions. I just think we're so fortunate to have Search Dog Foundation and that presence here in Ventura County. This is not a national leadership here. This is international leadership. People from all over the world are excited about this thing coming together and being a place that dog handlers and people can train all the way around. So looking forward, it's a work in progress. It's going to take a little while longer. They hope to get their construction loan from the bank next week. I hope the bank gives it to them, and to the extent that the bank listens to what we say here at the board, hope that moves forward. So anyway, on a happy note, I wanted to end with that information to everybody.
That's great. That's great. Wonderful. You talk about participatory. We saw it today, people participating, which is and has influence. But also, I talk about, besides government, you talk about the people who do it in the lives of the communities. And I just wanted the Wayne Templeton Volunteer of the Year Award was named yesterday. I want to congratulate John Williams for his hard work in supporting seniors in Simi Valley. I mean, people. And then also, I wanted to congratulate the recipients this year's Lou Roth Awards. For the Simi Valley Education Foundation and just an outstanding contribution to the Simi Valley, which is Chris Coral, Deborah Salgado, Teresa Samari, Barbara Troop, Sylvia Beltran, and Kevin Underwood, and K and J Auto Exchange. So just people that involve in their communities. You always want to say thank you. But also, people involved in their communities is city managers, and we have an assistant city manager in Simi Valley leaving after more than 10 years. City, I wanted to thank him for this hard work, but boy, what's going on in this county with city managers leaving, assistant city managers? A lot of job opportunities. People say there's jobs. Here they are in town. If you can do it, you can do it. So, well, anyway, appreciate that. So let's move on. We've got a 10 o'clock time certain, but we can get a couple things done, I think, in advance, if we could. I think number 10 we had on ours is we want to continue our appointment board and commissions till February 5th, right, Roberta? Is that correct? So we could have a motion to do that because everybody wants to sit on every board. I heard from Linda today; she just loves what she's doing. And John's trying. Oh, we're going to give it to John. Anyway, so if we if we can get a motion to do that, we'll continue that. Great. And for the public who doesn't know, there's all these supervisors sit on a whole bunch of different boards during the week and during the month. Whole bunch of different things. So, all right, let's go to, is it 41, our regular agenda? 41, Supervisor Parks. You have some appointments.
Yes, I believe this is to appoint Kevin Cannon
Yes.
to the Santa Rosa Valley Municipal Advisory Council. We've had an opening there. Don Schubert is passing the baton. He's been on for 10 years, and it's amazing how time flies, isn't it? We created that MAC here, and Kevin has been a very active member of the Santa Rosa Valley community. We did do some press releases and post it, and he was the most interested. He's the one I heard from, and I would ask that we appoint Mr. Cannon to the SRV MAC.
Great. We have a motion. Send a second. Okay. And then Roberta, is it 43 is the other one from me? And I'm just asking that we appoint and reappoint people for the drug and alcohol drug, area aging, aviation, Rancho Simi Cemetery District, HIV and AIDS committees, and the Mental Health Board. Just wanted those people. I'll make that motion.
And Sherry, you're looking at coming back in the future, looking at some other reviews of our boards and
yes,
that we appoint to?
Yes. Some different boards and commissions that we have, and hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to look at some. I know that we did a lot of work a few years back on some, and I think there was 5 or 6 that were left open, so let's review these again, and so we'll do that. Great. Okay, we're a few minutes before our time certain. Would you want to take a 5-minute break? We can do that? Okay. Good. Okay, we'll come back to order, and we got a very, very special presentation by Supervisor Bennett.
Thank you very much. One of the great pleasures of this job is moments like this. We have today board members Tom Morgan, who's worked for the county for 56 years, right? Just amazing. He can't see it, but the show of support behind him is just an example of the people that he's touched in his 56 years here. And so I'm going to leave it up to your choice, Tom. After 56 years, you're going to make this decision whether you want to stand at the podium while I read this resolution or you want to stay comfortably seated. I know your feet are bothering you. You can feel free to do that also, right? If his feet weren't bothering him, I think he'd be here for a lot longer than 56 years, because that's Tom walks 2 miles a day and never took the elevator. He always took the steps when he was here. And he's suddenly starting to experience some challenges with his feet, and we talked about whether I could talk about this, but that's the only reason he's leaving. It's not because his interest or he's not sharp for this job and stuff. But let's hear sort of the history of somebody 56 years here with the county and the remarkable contribution. And we go through periods, and I'm sure Tom has experienced periods where funding has been relatively good and things have moved, and funding has been relatively tight, and we've had tough times and good times here. But one of the hallmarks of Ventura County government is how many people continue to commit themselves to great public service day in and day out, quietly doing the job and doing the job well for the benefit of the public. And it is a remarkable thing. I see it in so many different departments here, and Tom highlights it here in the Public Works Department. So this is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Ventura County honoring Tom Morgan on his retirement from the Ventura County Public Works Agency. Whereas Tom Morgan graduated from California Maritime Academy in 1945 as a licensed deck officer, and whereas after 2 years at sea he went back to school, first at Glendale College and then graduating from the University of Southern California in 1950 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. And whereas after graduation he worked on the Central Valley Project for the Bureau of Reclamation until 1952, when he went to work for the United Water Conservation District in Santa Paula. That means he worked someplace else before he came here for 56 years. So, amazing. In 1953, he went to work for J&M Montgomery Consulting Engineers in Pasadena, where he became a registered civil engineer in the state of California. Returned to the United Water Conservation District, where he worked on the Santa Felicia Dam project. Tom was hired by the Ventura County Flood Control District deep into his career in 1955, and he became the chief engineer for the Public Works Agency in 1962. Now, I want to stop here. This is a little bit unusual. Usually you read these things and it just keeps going up and up and up in terms of where somebody... Tom was the chief engineer for Public Works in 1962, supervising the design, construction, management on a wide range of road, flood control, and water supply projects. He authored and maintained most of the standards, manuals, and procedures and standard contracts that are used by the Public Works Agency today. He served as the co-chairman of the American Public Works Association and Associated General Contractors Joint Cooperative Committee involved in developing standard specifications for public works projects. He also served as president of the Santa Barbara Ventura branch of the American Society of Civil Engineers. He presented and published a technical paper on the development of the county's waterworks standards at the American Waterworks Association. And then Tom retired as the director of the engineering services and chief engineer in 1991 after 36 years of service. Most people would call that a career. But he continued to work here in the Public Works Agency as an engineer one. So he went from the top of the organization, went back down, and just continued for 20 years to provide tremendous service as project management, contracting, technical and information technology and support. Now, today, after 56 years of outstanding service to the residents of Ventura County, Tom's decided to fully retire. We'll see how long that really lasts, right? From county service. He's earned the respect and admiration of his peers for his knowledge, work ethic, loyalty, and high degree of integrity. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Ventura County Board of Supervisors commends Tom Morgan for an exemplary career of which he's had every reason to be extremely proud. And be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors congratulates Tom Morgan on the occasion of his full retirement from the County Public Works Agency, presented this the 15th day of January 2013. So how about a big hand for Tom? And I've asked Tom to give us some sage advice as he's going out the door, and then we're going to ask everybody to stand for a picture, and we're going to have you stand there, and we'll shoot the picture from this angle. So, Tom, I'm going to come down and give you this resolution.
One of the things that was most interesting was the joint committee that I worked on, working on the standard specs. For 20 years, I worked on that committee about two days a month. We went to Los Angeles and did it. And I had a chance to work with engineers and contractors and utility people from all over Southern California. And I was impressed at how good our county was and the people that worked here. I think we have done awfully well in this area. When I first came to Ventura County, there was only 200,000 people here, and it sort of grew, which was part of being very interesting. Part of our work was the subdivision business in the 60s was wild, and we had to do an awful lot of growing all of a sudden. Other than that, and by the way, my poker group's back here, all retired county employees.
Everybody will stand, and then I'll go back there.
And she's
There we go. We're going to face this way first, all right? Okay. So we get all these people. So, Tom, if you want to turn, and Anna will be back up there. Supervisors, you want to come down and join Tom? Let's do this. Are you okay, Stan?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I got this.
All right. Great. And Tom, we'll have you hold that. That's all right with you?
Do you want him to hold it?
Yeah,
Thank you for your work, your service, your life's career. Thank you.
Some of the service.
We'll just do this. How about that? Just like that.
Born when you started working for the company.
I can say that.
Well, you know, there was one student aide that said, "My father wasn't born when I." You
Thank you, Tom. Just getting warmed up. All right, here we go, everybody. And then could you come down, Anna, and shoot some individual ones here? Yes, there we go.
My grandson, by the way. He was a county employee for a short time. He was student aide. If you want to just turn son and daughter. He's working under contract for R&I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a landscape architect. Did inspection for them.
And we're going to do this.
Well, No, but I figure one step. We run about
All right, great.
50% of the population. But there was a lot more public works people. Public works was much larger.
They want to shoot your picture there.
Well, not only that, but we had harbor airports.
Tom, you want to hold that? There you go. All right. Can you go from there, and that way you can shoot the supervisors and Tom and Peter, if you could step up, and John, why don't you guys come right up next to Tom there? Come on in, Michael. Jeff, you want to join us in this, right?
Jeff is public works director.
Anna, get
public works director.
buddy, and they'll let you in. There we go. They already shot the group.
It's this right here. Here's the setup. Of course. No jokes.
All right, everybody that wants to come down and get in the background, we'll do one more picture this way. If you want to come down and be in the background.
I want to ask this question, but what are you going to do now when you come home?
It'll be a tough one.
Tough one, yeah. What a revelation.
Anna, you're going to go way back? Yeah. We'll get them all in.
You have to jump up.
Come on down. Come on down.
I'm fine. I can see his hair. Cover some horns.
Here we go, folks. All righty. Congratulations. Thank you for lending them to us for 56 years.
William. A big thought for your service. Working somewhere 56 years ago.
Good. Congratulations. Thanks an awful lot for your service, Tom. Really appreciate it. Good luck with your team. Tom? Thanks for all your help. 56 years. That's a long time.
Well, except that the guys went outside here. My poker club wanted somebody brought the cards, so we're going to have poker game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Supervisor Parks, number 28. You've got our friend here.
It's my honor to be able to invite Mr. Rudy Gonzalez up from the Southern California Edison. If you recall, I think a couple of years ago, they agreed to come forward and give us their kind of future plans of what they're looking at and helping us to have a better understanding and the public to have a better understanding of Southern California Edison's plans and learn about our energy supplier. So thank you for coming, and I hear you have a
My
PowerPoint
pleasure.
too.
I do, yes. And the trick on the clicker is hit the right button? Great, okay.
We're not going to hold you accountable, Rudy, to that 3-minute presentation.
I'm just a little bit longer than 3 minutes. Hey, good morning, Chairman Foy, members of the board, and Mr. Powers. As stated, my name is Rudy Gonzalez. I'm Southern California Edison's region manager for the Ventura County area. I'm here this morning to share with you an overview of Edison's infrastructure investment projects, a brief description and current status of these projects, and finally confirm our commitment to working more closely with you, your staff, and the community as we move forward with anticipated projects in the future. Based in Rosemead, California, Southern California Edison has been providing safe, reliable electric service to Central, Coastal, and Southern California for more than 125 years. This is our mission, to provide customers with safe, reliable electricity. Simple and straightforward. We strive to do so in a cost-effective, environmentally friendly manner that takes into consideration ways we can help our customers save energy and money. As times change, Edison wants to make sure we are not just keeping up with the times, but leading the way to provide the best electrical service to meet our customers' electricity needs both now and in the future. Today, people are more energy efficient than ever. Over the last 5 years, Edison's energy efficiency programs have saved over 7 billion kilowatt hours, enough to power almost 1 million average Southern California homes for an entire year. During the economic downturn, the rate of electrical growth has slowed, but the demand for electricity has continued to increase. Every year, new electronic devices are introduced. Televisions get bigger, as do the accompanying sound systems and gaming devices. As you can see from the graphic, people today use more complex equipment, electronics, and appliances at work and at home than ever before. While we enhanced our facilities to do more, much of the electric infrastructure that serves our communities today was built decades ago when typical household needs were much different from today. At Edison, it's our job to make sure that our customers have the robust electrical infrastructure needed to continue to power their future energy needs. While utilities in the United States move forward to modernize, the nation's electricity grid mostly operates on century-old technology. Edison has been working on the smart grid for many years and has a broad end-to-end vision that covers all facets of energy. As we continue to upgrade both our transmission and distribution infrastructure, we focus on the following: smart power delivery, which is needed to manage a more diverse energy supply and optimize existing capacity. Renewable generation is a significant part of our energy mix. Our current energy mix includes 22% of renewable generation, with a goal to be at 33% by the year 2020. While we believe a 33% goal is achievable, bringing renewable energy online creates new challenges that will require we work with our communities to find ways to deliver this energy to our customers. Smart metering will enable customers to increase energy conservation and reduce peak usage while improving customer service and operational efficiency. Customers will have access to energy usage information that will allow them to monitor how much electricity they're using and take advantage of incentives for using less energy. Customers can also use this information to set spending goals for their electric bills. In addition, the meters will allow us to eliminate thousands of truck trips per year, further reducing our carbon footprint. Plug-in hybrid vehicles will have an impact on our local grid system. We work with auto dealers and local government to identify locations where plug-in vehicles may increase the demand on our system and possibly overload some of our existing equipment in the field. So we want to make sure that the use of chargers during the evening hours don't create problems with us. So we keep close tabs as to where people are installing charging facilities. We're also working with local government to provide information on grant information for those cities that choose to increase electric vehicle charging facility infrastructure. An unknown regarding our energy future is whether or not we'll be able to bring our San Onofre nuclear facility back online anytime soon. As you are aware, the 2 operating units there were taken offline just about a year ago. Edison is currently taking the steps necessary to bring the plant back online. Safety is the #1 priority, and there is no timeline on safety. We will not restart the units until the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is satisfied it is safe to do so. San Onofre is essential in helping to California's long-term goal for cleaner air and reliable emission-free power. The plant provides baseload generation, meaning its power serves customers' needs day and night regardless of the weather, unlike wind and solar.
Rudy, can I just ask, how much power does San Onofre give you percentage-wise?
San Onofre generates approximately 2,200 megawatts, which is about 10% of our own utility's capacity.
Wow.
So if we lose that long-term, we've got to look at other ways to fill that gap, which in itself would create significant challenges.
That'd be a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Well, while we have you interrupted with
Sure.
questions, you mentioned about electric charging at people's homes.
Yes.
Does Edison feel confident that they will be able to meet the increased demand that will arise from that?
Yeah, fortunately, most folks who have electric vehicles park them in the garage at night and will plug them in at night to charge their batteries. And that's fortunately the time that we experience the lowest demand on our system. So it actually helps level our load formula.
And also, while you're interrupted,
Sure.
You mentioned that your goal is to get to 33% of converting to what would you refer to?
Renewable energy.
Renewable, okay. And my question is that because of the requirement of AB 32, is that what it is in 2020?
It's all part of it, yes.
Okay, you're not looking at exceeding that, you're just looking at meeting it.
Well, I actually, I think you may have been at the presentation that Commissioner Peavy made at Cal State Channel Islands.
Great
and
presentation.
his hope was that the utilities would just fly right by that 33% mandate and on our own exceed it. And again, the challenge is, you know, it's great to have that amount of renewable energy in place to be able to serve the load, but it's got to be available at a moment's notice. And as you all know, the wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. So you've got to have backup generation in place for when we don't have the wind or sun. So in addition, the challenges of getting that type of power from where it's being generated, which is typically further inland into the load basin, creates its own challenges with what we're experiencing on our, what we refer to our Tehachapi renewable transmission line. We're trying to build a transmission line from where it's being generated into the Southern California, LA Basin area, and we are experiencing one challenge after another. Folks, and I understand completely, but folks don't want to see these 220 and 500 kilovolt lines running through their neighborhoods, through their parks, through their backyards. So, you know, we are working currently with the California Public Utilities Commission and other agencies to determine the best routes to get power from where it's being generated to where it's being used.
Wouldn't more of an emphasis on green roofs require you don't need to have as much out there in the inland or the desert?
Yeah, solar generation on homes and on businesses will help. However, it would not be enough to make it to that 33% mandate. I mean, when you think about, getting there 5, 6, 7, 8 kilowatts at a time, it would be a lot of roofs that would need to be covered with solar facilities to be able to get to that mandated percentage. So we are looking at more large-scale projects. We don't build them, but we buy the power from the developers who build these generation facilities. That, along with the California Solar Initiative, where we go out and we try to educate our customers on purchasing a system, just give them some basic knowledge about the right questions to ask, how to go about installing. We'll get there through a combination of all those types of generation.
I have read about other energy companies in other areas that actually aren't inclined to have those kind of solar roofs because it takes people off of the grid and then they're losing customers that way. But I just would hope that we don't have that kind of economy here.
We hope.
Mr. Chairman.
We understand your business.
Rudy, I see that the high schools or the school districts are
Yes.
going into solar panels.
Yeah, and they're taking advantage of many of the grant opportunities that are available to reduce the initial cost of installation for those types of installations. So, we encourage more of the same.
And they use them as carports too, So.
Right, yep.
So that really works as a dual.
We've utilized them at our corporate facilities in Rosemead. We've got carports that have the solar facilities on the roof, so it
And
works
I
out very
think I
well.
read an article in the paper where Pacifica High School or Oxnard High School saved a tremendous amount. In fact, you made a presentation there, I think, regarding the savings.
Yeah, as electricity costs increase, the payback for those types of installations shortens. So it works out very well for all parties.
You mentioned challenges in terms of constructing new power lines. I was at a meeting about 6 weeks ago with some people regarding emergency preparedness, and they were pointing out that to the extent that you can bury your power lines, you can further prepare your community for emergencies. You're less likely to have those power lines coming down in either high storm events or other things. Can you just give it to me later if you have to? But long-term power, long-distance power lines. Is there any economies of scale in burying them and then not having to deal with it as much, or is it just prohibitive to bury versus?
We would love to be able to get all of our lines underground so we don't have to deal with the pushback from the communities that we try to run these lines through. However, it is very expensive, and there comes a point in time where you've got to weigh the cost to the ratepayer and the benefits to the community. Once you start that process, our customers who are becoming more and more sophisticated start asking, why did you bury the lines here and not here? So there's equity issues when we determine, where and when we bury power lines. Yeah.
But 100 miles of buried power line versus 100 miles of non-buried line, huge cost difference?
Huge cost difference, particularly when you're talking about transmission voltage, 220,000 volts, 500,000 volts. It is extremely expensive.
To bury.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I think you had talked, Supervisor Parks, we heard that when they were talking about the stuff up by the library and trying to...
Right.
It was 4 or 5 times as expensive, plus
Absolutely.
the land requirement, because you can't have these right next to each other and the
Right.
bulk. It was unbelievable how expensive.
Yeah, there's got to be a certain amount of separation, and technically, there's a certain way that you do bury them safely. So it just adds to the cost. And again, our challenge is trying to do the right thing, yet keep rates reasonable.
But it's also not our cost. Let's say in our area, it's not our cost. You have to divide that over all your whole
Absolutely.
area. So somebody in San Diego, if you take San Diego, would pay for our burying our lines here.
Exactly, and
That's
that
why you
raises
said-
the equity issue.
That's the equity issue, okay.
Yeah.
I'd heard somewhere it was like $1 million a mile to...
That's a very conservative number.
That's a conservative
that's
number.
when you're
Just to
talking
give
just
the public
distribution.
an idea.
Yeah, when you're talking transmission, it's several $1 million a mile. So it becomes cost prohibitive. Yeah.
But also when there's a fire caused by wind,
Right.
it's a lot better to have them underground in the long term for savings, but I understand the expense.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. As I was saying, the San Onofre plant provides baseload generation, meaning that its power serves the needs day and night, regardless of the weather. We were able to make it through this past summer without San Onofre due to contingency plans and customer conservation that were in place that kept demand fairly low. And we actually experienced a fairly mild summer season as well. Edison's infrastructure investment will meet the long-term electrical needs for Ventura County. It will provide safe and reliable electricity to our customers, and it will enhance the transmission and delivery of power in a cost-effective manner while minimizing the potential impacts to communities and the environment. This is a list of projects that we are currently working on. These are significant projects. I'll discuss the most prominent of these projects. Our presidential substation, this proposed project will meet current and future demand in the cities of Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, and adjacent areas of unincorporated Ventura County. It will consist of a new substation likely on Olson Road just east of the 23 freeway and 4 new distribution circuits. The draft EIR was released in September 2011, and since then, Edison has answered multiple data requests from several parties. According to the California Public Utilities Commission, the CPUC, the final EIR for the project should be released in the first quarter of this year, so fairly soon. A final PUC decision on Edison's permit to construct application is anticipated by the end of the year. Our Moore Park Newberry subtransmission line. This project will address overload conditions during peak demand on an existing 66 kV subtransmission line and increase electrical capacity to meet the area's current and anticipated demand for electricity. And when I say the area, I mean the Newbury Park area. We're interconnecting from our Moore Park substation to the Newbury Park area.
And what do you mean when you say sub-transmission line? Is there a difference between a sub-transmission line and a transmission
Yes, sub-transmission is 66,000 volts and below. Our transmission lines are 110,000 volts and above.
Thank you.
And then we have distribution, which are the more localized lines that are at either 12 or 16,000 volts.
And it was this Moore Park Newberry line that actually led to this presentation because as a result of a lot of concerns by residents who will live near those new lines, this is one of the things that we wanted to get a better handle on. We know that energy use has declined even though people have increased the amount of gadgets they have at their home. Is this still in the same time frame that you had originally proposed it? I know it got stopped and maybe it's being re-reviewed by the PUC?
Yeah, in September 2011, the construction on the project was halted due to the issuance of a decision by the CPUC to grant the rehearing request. And the CPUC directed Edison to file a permit to construct with the commission to complete construction for the project. So we expected, I think when we first started construction, we expected it would be online sometime around 2014. That date, of course, is going to be pushed back as we go through the permitting process. We're currently working on our permit to construct application materials and anticipate moving forward with the CPUC later this year. So we haven't even applied for the project at this point.
Does that have an environmental document? Will you be doing it
Yes, there'll be a proponent's environmental assessment document.
But not a CEQA document?
Well, the CPUC is the CEQA agency when it comes to these types of projects. The CPUC will hire their own environmental consultant to evaluate our document, and then together the CPUC will evaluate both documents, and they'll make their decisions to how to proceed.
Thank you. It is a rather foreign process, one
Sure.
I'm not familiar with. Thank you.
Sure. The Santa Barbara County Reliability Project. This project is necessary to ensure the availability of safe and reliable electric service to help meet electrical demand in the Santa Barbara South Coast area during emergency conditions, while also enhancing operational flexibility. Additionally, customers in northwest Ventura County would also benefit from the modernized facilities installed as part of the project. In October 2012, Edison filed a permit to construct application with the CPUC. The CPUC will complete an environmental review of the project, which will include opportunities for public comment, as will the process for the Moore Park Newberry line. And then they'll issue a decision regarding Edison's application to approve the project as filed, approve the project with modifications, or deny the project. And the final two projects on the list have minimal community impact, so I won't go into detail for those. And then this map depicts the locations of the projects that I just discussed. I'll move on to distribution projects. This slide lists some of the significant distribution projects we have planned over the next few years. Projects include capacity increases at 3 substations, a new circuit out of our Channel Island substation located at Victoria and Hemlock to support electrification or shore power of the Port of Hueneme, a new circuit out of our Colonia substation located at Pleasant Valley and Wood Road to support Oxnard and Camarillo, as well as the Springville interchange area growth. And I mentioned earlier, we have 4 new distribution circuits out of the new presidential substation in Simi Valley. And finally, 2 new distribution circuits, one out of the Thousand Oaks substation located in Thousand Oaks, and the other out of our Royal substation located in Simi Valley. And this is a map depicting the different locations of those proposed projects. In addition to planned projects I've identified, there's much maintenance and upgrade work that annually takes place. This includes the inspection of facilities in which we identify and replace equipment that is deemed susceptible to failure due to deterioration or overloaded conditions. The installation of remote control switches allows us to reroute power more quickly in the event of a power outage. An important step in replacing equipment on a planned basis is customer communication and coordination. Edison will always notify customers ahead of time when there's a need to conduct a planned outage in order to replace equipment. We realize this creates an inconvenience for our customers, however, believe that customers would much rather deal with a planned outage to replace equipment than to have the equipment fail on an emergency basis and have to deal with what would likely be a much longer outage. While Edison does not own any trees located within our right-of-way, we expend a significant amount of resources to make sure trees do not come in contact with our lines. We encourage customers to contact Edison should they see a tree making contact with our electric lines. Edison also responds to customers' requests to provide new service or relocate facilities resulting from local government projects such as the Rice Avenue Bridge project. We are looking forward to working with the County Executive Officer's staff to continue the good work completed by the Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance. I've personally committed to Sue Hughes that our team will provide the necessary resources to shorten the learning curve for her team. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind the public of a message that we've been promoting through our print, radio, and television ads. That is, should the public come across a down power line, assume it is electrical and that it is a live wire. Please call 911 and report the down line so that the appropriate responders can handle the situation. Never make contact with a down power line or anything that it is touching. During the last week of November of 2011, we experienced a major windstorm in the San Gabriel Valley that affected many of our poles and wires that serve the region. Initially, over 400,000 customers were without power. Some were without power for over a week. We learned many valuable lessons following that storm. Customer communication was a major issue for us. Providing updates to residents became a bigger challenge than we expected. What we learned is that there are local resources we should have tapped into to assist in getting timely information out to our customers. Since then, we have focused on connecting with emergency response organizations to utilize existing lines of communications we did not take advantage of during the restoration efforts of the windstorm. We are working with local community emergency response team, CERTs, to determine how we may be able to coordinate efforts to get information out and to assist in the distribution of emergency supplies. In addition, we are educating local CERT teams on how to handle a situation where a power line is involved. Edison will educate CERT teams about Edison equipment located throughout our communities and what they should do should they come across a down power line. I encourage any local CERT organization to contact Edison to receive this training. We have provided financial support and are partnering with our local American Red Cross chapters through Prepare SoCal to assist in these efforts. Proactively engaging with the public is a critical component of our project planning processes, and we are committed to involve interested and affected stakeholders early and continuously throughout the entire project's life cycle. We want to continue to work together with the county and the public on our projects to not only live up to our mission of providing safe, reliable electricity, but also to be sensitive to your concerns and minimize the effects on our community. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Supervisor Long has a question.
Yeah, just, and thank you, Rudy, for coming in to provide that update. Regional Energy Alliance, and appreciate that the Edison and the commitment at the local level to continue to help with the learning curve, which I assure you will be short. They're a bright group. And with the JPA staying in place and the members around the table, it'll certainly be a good continuing progress to be made there. And just encourage Edison to stay at the table with us. And we have a technical advisory committee that's committed to stick with the JPA work. And you talk about reaching out to the community and building a foundation of a baseline of understanding and working with CERT teams and working with in addition to the member partners, the general public. I mean, it really is that extra portal for Edison to utilize and partner and engage in. So I strongly support and encourage that to continue.
Thank you.
Yes.
Rudy, thank you so much. And I think you're working with our EPC too, right? With Chef Dean and
yes,
Emergency Planning Council.
Right.
And of course, Laura Hernandez just retired from that. But
oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, she just recently retired. But we have quite a few stakeholders there in the EPC, the Emergency Planning Council, that we could probably utilize at working with the public.
Absolutely.
Portion of. So, thank you for the excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
Just to echo that, Rudy, thank you for the information and for your partnership. And in the past, too, as the board may know, they helped fund the video that you just saw, as well as the utility management program that enables us to monitor and track the utility usage at all over 250 county locations. So that's just one example, but look forward to working with you in the future as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've always been a good partner, and I know that all the nonprofits who basically just say thanks for the money that you guys provide. It's our money, but you guys support it, and I just appreciate all you do. You're a great representative for Edison.
Yeah, we are invested in the community. Yeah. We want to continue to be a strong community member, and as long as you mention the nonprofits, I will publicly remind them that our new grant cycle will begin in February, so any nonprofit that wishes to tap into charitable contribution through Edison, go to edison.com and review the information on the website. We have 4 opportunities per year, the first one starting in February. So,
yeah, Boy Scouts will be there.
Great.
You gave to us before, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming. It is, I think, immensely helpful to, one, have that dialogue, but also to hear what your plans are and where things stand and get some other information on things that we may not be as in tune with. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate
My pleasure.
it. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
So we'll see you again next year.
Yes.
If not sooner.
Okay, then we have a motion to receive and file. Great. And we'll go on to item 29. Rudy didn't believe my 3-minute deal, so we're a little behind right now. Okay. You're going to tell us some really good news? Like always. He always does with a great smile, doesn't he?
Good morning, Chair Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. Reddy Pakala with the Water and Sanitation Department with the Public Works Agency. As we saw in Edison presentation, infrastructure is expensive to build, to replace. Really, that's one of the major...
He left when you started talking.
This is a public hearing for the proposed water rate increase for Ventura County Water Work District number 17. District provides water supply to the community of Bell Canyon. And all of the water supply for this district is imported from Metropolitan Water District to Callegas. Then through City of Simi Valley, we have to pump this water more than 800 feet to go over the Simi Hills before this water gets to the community of Bell Canyon. For calendar year 2013, the imported water rates for this district have gone up by 6.5%, and we are estimating a 5% increase in the Edison power charges for this district. We have prepared a detailed water rate analysis and presented it to the Citizens Advisory Committee appointed by your board. The committee unanimously concurred with the 4% commodity water rate increase effective February 2013. As your board is aware, all water rates are subject to Proposition 218 protest hearings. A 45-day notice of the proposed water rate increase was mailed to more than 700 customers within the district service area. Clerk of the board did not receive any protest letters. The customer service staff in Moore Park did not receive any calls related to the proposed water rate increase. We are recommending that your board approve the resolution in our staff report. That concludes my verbal presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Anybody have any questions, sir?
I just have one general question. I appreciate this and I support this. You've got a 4% increase and you've got a 6.5% water rate increase and a 5% electricity increase. I know you've done this a number of times where you've been able to come in with the water charge increase less than the increase that we're paying for those two increases, and it's because of other efficiencies you've found.
Correct.
Do you anticipate being able to continue to do this in the long run, or do you anticipate at some point in time you're going to have rate increases that are going to match the rate increases that we get from the water suppliers and the electricity companies?
Right. The Cayugas Municipal Water District has prepared a 10-year financing plan. Their projection is not to exceed 6% per year for the next 10 years. If Cayugas were to abide by their 10-year plan, we project our rate increases would be less than 5 years.
Less than 5 years?
Less than 5%. Less than 5%.
So you think you'll be able to continue to find efficiencies for a 10-year period of time?
Yes, sir. Efficiencies, and also we have a rate stabilization fund that we have been setting aside from the Tier 2, Tier 3 water sales. Mm-hmm. So that helps us to offset some of the water rate increases coming to us.
Let me just follow up on that. So those Tier 2 and Tier 3, you're setting that aside on a yearly basis, even though you're using some of it, but it replenishes itself.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And every year we do a five-year rate projection. Right. We present this analysis to the advisory committees. So for the next 5 years, we have looked at and said 5% or less would be for next 5 years.
And Ray, I can't say enough about how you always try to find ways to be as creative as you can to save the people as much as they can. I know it's very difficult, to get a new bill and your water's up $10 a month or $25 a month, but you're doing everything you can, and it's tough. You're kind of at the end of it, and then you get to tell everybody. So.
Well, and even that's per year.
Yes.
Looking at
Yes,
increases. And I heard a clip this morning, it was out of Santa Barbara, where they were doing some major infrastructure project and had to shut down the system, and in preparation encouraged the residents for a 3-day period to conserve water, and they reached a 20% conservation goal, which is pretty remarkable, and just says we have to continue that side of the ledger, that whole, what other ways can we help the public to understand and to engage in conservation?
Yes.
Just help to lower cost.
But then they'll raise our rates because we didn't sell enough water, right?
Thank you for bringing this forward, and I'll make the motion to approve this. And also, thank you. Reddy has been very engaged with the Lake Sherwood Community Service District and folks out there and trying to work out something that is a win-win for everyone. It's not easy, but he's putting a lot of energy and good work to it. So thank you for that.
Mr. Chair. I also want to thank Reddy. This is not the only district that's gone up. You've stabilized districts throughout, so you've done an excellent job, and you need to be commended for that, so.
Yes, sir. As you know, we have 5 water districts. Exactly. I come before you 5 times a year. I know you don't like to see my face, but I have to come and present you to the facts. And
the important thing that you have those contingency funds to assist, and help, and you have those committees that help us and you know, with the rate studies, the stakeholders, which I think are extremely important.
In the Spill Canyon area, I think the advisory committee was even willing to go over what the staff recommendation was, to your point, so.
So see that advisory committees are really important to them.
Yes, sir. Very, very important. They are very engaged.
Yeah. As I say, it's one of the first times we've come where the public hasn't come behind them to complain, so
They're saying,
good job.
charge us more.
Charge us more, that's good. I think you've done such a good job of making people clearly understand
Yes, sir.
what's really happening, and I think that's been the big issue for the last 3 or 4 years. So, well, good, okay.
Thank you, Ray.
This is up, who are we waiting on? Supervisor Zaragoza, and we'll give Reddy his marching orders. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, we are so on time that we can't even take Sue up here. You want to say something to us, Sue, for 3 or 4 minutes before 11 o'clock? All right, so I guess we'll take a 3-minute Sue, who are you talking to?
County Council about another issue.
He's
Good
your buddy.
morning.
He's your buddy over
I'm on.
there.
Good
All
morning,
right.
Chair Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers, Sue Hughes with the County CEO's office here today with the annual state and federal legislative agenda and platform. And, you know, I'd really like to start out by thanking all of you, your staff, all of the county departments and their staff, because without all of that help, it would take a lot longer to put this thing together, and it wouldn't look quite like it does. So I really want to thank everyone that has a hand in putting this together. That way you can't blame me for everything that's on it here either. But I couldn't do this all without everyone's help, and I very much appreciate that. As has been the case in the last few years, this document is broken down into a state platform and agenda and a federal platform and agenda. Those are attachments A and B. Attachment C is both of those documents as they looked last year, and then all of the track changes that took place to make the changes to this year's document. And then Exhibit D is what we think of as the major accomplishments for both the state and the federal program. A couple of things that you might notice that were different on this one is historically we've asked for federal earmarks. And since we haven't seen the likes of earmarks for a few years, we're just calling them funding opportunities. In the case of an agency like Public Works, and in particular the Watershed Protection District, their funding through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers comes directly to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and not to the County of Ventura or Watershed Protection District. So those funding requests are a little bit different than the other agencies that you'll see under the funding opportunity requests, because those we used to get as earmarks. Now what we do is agencies and departments have done a real good job of telling me these are high priorities for us. So it allows our federal advocates and me to keep an eye on what grant opportunities, not that we don't keep our eye open on all grant opportunities, but to really dial in on the ones that are come sort of to the top of the list for these departments. So it's just a matter of semantics really over the last couple of years and changing the title of that section in the federal platform and agenda. Pretty much it's the changes that are in there are things that agencies and departments sort of anticipate might be happening in the upcoming year. But of course, as with every year, our biggest watch will be what the state does, how the state budget comes through, any opportunities we might have in lobbying for, as always, the best for the county and the County of Ventura. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions. I did get one request to make an addition, and that addition would go on the state platform and would the way that it would be added in there is the County of Ventura supports implementation of the Beacon Beach Nourishment Project. So that's what has been suggested be added by Supervisor Bennett. And if you'd like to add to that, or maybe want me to change the phrasing of that.
I think that's phrasing is fine. Just for the benefit of everybody, we don't talk about it very often, but Supervisor Zaragoza and I serve on Beacon. Beacon is coming up with some sand replenishment projects to try to get sand in various places and transport it to the beach and try to get funding for that. It's one of the things that everybody supports. The beach property owners support it because they want the sand replenishment on the beaches. Harbors like it because you can dredge the harbor, take that sand, put it onto the beach, those kind of projects. So it's a general request for the beach sand replenishment projects of Beacon. We are one of 7 entities that serve on Beacon, along with the City of Oxnard, City of Ventura, City of Santa Barbara, County of Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, and Goleta. All make up the Beacon members, and there are 2 of us from the county that sit there. So we didn't get this on there earlier, so we appreciate Sue Hughes bringing it up as a potential add to our legislative agenda.
And I'd like to second that, because I belonged to Beacon even before as a county supervisor. I was a representative for the City of Oxnard, and Beacon has done a lot of good work in replenishing sand, for under the JPA between the County of Santa Barbara and the County of Ventura. And when we had problems with the with the beaches over in Oxnard. They were there to do so, Wainimi, and also in Ventura, and also Goleta when they had that big erosion problem there in Goleta, and Carpinteria. So it's a good agency to belong to, and I support that addition to it.
Roberta, do we have to?
Also, if I may, on the Resource Management Agency, Chris is here. We have a bullet point in there that refers to our state housing element goals, and I was wondering, it seems my recollection is mobile homes aren't considered affordable housing. They're just not, if I'm correct, and if so, I think we could add that into the list in the bullet point that references the affordable housing goals and initiatives to help achieve that they also be included in the count of affordable housing.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'd make
Should we add
a
in-
motion
yeah.
to adopt the legislative platform with these two changes.
okay.
Second.
What I'd like to do, though, is if I could, because there's parts I every year can't agree with, if we could break it into two parts, that you can add that up, if I could have for the state and the federal, just section 1. If we could vote on that separately and then add this too. But we already have a motion on the floor, so you
I'm
want
happy to revise it.
revise that, and if we could do that, so we could vote for
Be clear, what did you want us to vote on?
So
section?
the section, just the overall broad section of each one, the federal and the state, and then we'll go, that's just one, and then 2 through 4 on each of the other ones. We'll include your other motions in those two.
Okay.
Okay, can we do that?
And my one that I don't want to support and do not support is the one that takes away the 218 vote on flood control. So otherwise, I support the agenda.
You got to figure out what you're going to vote yes and no on then. Is that in part 2 or is that part 1?
It's the state legislative agenda.
Can we make a motion to add that to it so she can do that, or figure that, I don't know how you can do, I don't know.
The way we've done this in the past is Supervisor Parks has opposed that one addition into the legislative platform, but as I understand it from County Council, there'd have to be, all of the board members would have to approve removing that from, or you'd have to have a majority of the board members vote to remove that from the legislative agenda before it would come off.
If the minutes could just note my opposition to that,
There you
I'll
go.
go ahead and support the rest of it.
Okay.
That works.
Okay.
The removal of the 218 vote for flood control.
And I can get that to you, Roberta.
So Roberta, the motion that we have here that's first and seconded, could that be for section 1 and 2 of, for section 1 of the federal and of the state? And then we'll make another motion that will include the rest? That work? Pardon? Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. So this is still Supervisor Bennett and Supervisor Zergas seconding that?
Yes.
Yes. Section 1, federal, okay, good. There you go. Okay, and then the next motion would be of section 2 through 4 of...
Yeah, okay. Sections 2 through 4 with the two changes that have been...
Two changes added.
Recommended.
Of the state.
For the state.
And
With the
And
beacon.
the motion is for the state and the federal,
Yeah.
but with the two changes to the state legislation.
You have that,
I'd
Sue?
like to, I'm trying to hit
Yes.
motion, but it's not letting, there we go.
There we go. Okay. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate, I know you do a lot of work and everybody else does too, but you lead that work. And I know that they just a couple of weeks ago added some more things to you, so you always have something else to do.
Thank you.
Looking for more things to do.
Looking for more things to do?
My opposition should be on that second vote, right? That's where it's...
2 through 4.
I think you put it on the first, you put the opposite up on the top, but you can add it there, okay.
Thank you.
If I might just also thank Sue and thank the all the departments who take a good look at this every year, because it is our guiding platform. It's the one that we take up and send out to our representatives and walk through with them. I think the issues related to protecting our resources and under Prop 30, where things align and well for us and where they don't. I appreciate the addition of the local coastal plan process with under RMA, because the CSAC Coastal Counties Group's working diligently with the Coastal Commission to look at how we can improve both the relationship process for local coastal planning and plans process. So appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, and she and the department has really worked to distill it down to
Yeah.
a much more manageable, useful
Yeah.
document than I think it used to be. So good
Yeah,
work.
it is.
Thank you.
And I also just want to thank the board, too, for your cooperation.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you
For the
all.
good work you do.
Appreciate
All
it.
right. See you next year on this. I'm sure we'll see you all year long on a bunch of other things. Just don't raise your hand when they ask for new jobs. All right.
Or be absent.
Okay, we have 31, which receive and file approval of revised Transportation Department Strategic Master Plan. Here's the man right here, Mr. Fleisch.
Good morning, Chair Foy, Supervisors, Mr. Powers. For the record, Dave Fleisch with the Public Works Agency Transportation Department. What I'm before you with today is a revision of our strategic master plan, which we first presented to the board about a year ago in December of 2011. This was provided via memo with a lot of detail to your staffs in mid-November. We originally scheduled to be on the board agenda on the 4th of December, and due to some scheduling issues, we removed our scheduling issues. We removed later. What I'm going to cover with you today, you see up here is the agenda. I'll go through fairly quickly the background and the revisions and the ranking factors, and then be open for any questions. Again, the overall objective of the plan was to evaluate, score, and prioritize the directed infrastructure improvement projects with respect to level of service, safety, and quality of traveling life throughout the county. These directed projects are drawn from documents that either your board or the Ventura County Transportation Commission approved. And so that's the focus of what is in here. What is not in here are routine maintenance projects, pavement rehabilitation projects, which I bring to you as our separate pavement plan, or any other projects that we have that are either in other documents that are not approved by your board or the commission, or that are just routine things that we do. So this is not a comprehensive list of every single project that we have, but again, those that are identified and directed by either your board or the commission. Again, initially we brought this to the board in 2011. There was a request after that for us to meet individually with each of your offices and you, and over the next several months, Jeff Pratt and I came and met with each of you and walked through the specifics of the list and your concerns. And based upon that, it caused us to make several adjustments to the plan, prioritization criteria, and then the rankings that are there. Previously, we had three ranking factors: user benefit, source of project, and community support. To that, we've added safety, and I'm going to explain those briefly here. The user benefits essentially relate to the level of service of the road, or improving those facilities for bicycle projects. If they're not, you don't really calculate level of service for bicycles. You look at other factors, and I'll explain those. And again, the source of the project relates to either our county general plan, the congestion management program from the Ventura County Transportation Commission, the bike master plan, a couple other smaller documents like that that have been approved that have lists of projects. And finally, community support is exactly that, not only the community itself, but your support or other elected officials in terms of whether or not the project is something that we're desirous of moving forward with. We made some revisions to this user benefit. Initially, we had used the average daily traffic on the roads and the level of service. We used the level of service, or we modified that to use the level of service as the primary factor. If we have two roads that have the same level of service and essentially the same score, that with a higher ADT, in other words, that which would benefit more users would be placed higher on the list. So ADT is used as kind of a secondary item.
We initially had on here 5, 3, and 1, and we've stratified that a little bit more to make the prioritization process a little cleaner. So it's essentially just walks down from level of service E, and that's the current level of service. If it's currently a level of service E, which is the worst level, or EF, obviously that's a road that we would want to focus on a project more quickly for improvement than one that's level of service A, which is functioning at a very acceptable level. As a reminder, from our county general plan, level of service C, D is acceptable in the county depending upon what kind of road it is. The community support criteria, essentially the main thing that we added in here, we had 5, 3, and 1 before, and we added a 0 for no support, which would indicate that although a project is in either the congestion management program or in our general plan, from an overall concept perspective, there really is no support either from your board or a specific group that would be affected by that project, and so we would look at that. Again, a reminder also on community support, we did not try to rank every project with this because we don't have the ability to go out and survey for 113 projects. So our intent is, once your board gives us an indication of what the priority list should be, we will take the top 10 projects and seek some sort of community, through public outreach, some sort of community sense of what the interest in those projects are. Probably the most significant thing that several of you requested was for us to add a specific criteria for safety. Previously, it had been rolled into the other criteria. We backed that out and did a specific criteria for safety. There's actually 2 categories that we included, and it's essentially the sum of those 2 to give the safety score, and then it averaged. The first category is what does it actually protect? If it protects not only the pedestrians and the motorists and the infrastructure, it would receive the highest score, as opposed to something that only protected the existing infrastructure, which would receive a 2. Somewhat subjective in a way, but it's pretty easy for us to determine with the project where the primary focus of the safety is. The second piece is we are using a Federal Highway Administration safety program crash reduction factor, which essentially looks at what the improvement is and what the what's the potential effectiveness of that improvement in increasing safety. And they've done years of research on this, and we've got quite a bit of data that we can track fairly easily, looking at a project, looking at what we're doing, and then establishing that criteria, or establishing the score. Essentially, the score is from 0 to 100, with a 5 being 80 to 100 being the most effective, and a score of 1 to 19 being the lowest effective from the safety perspective. So that's the changes to the criteria. Because of those changes, we needed to update the priority list that we had. We did a number of things. One, there were some projects that since the last time I brought this before your board were either completed or we've had funded, so we've removed those off the list. Obviously, if we're doing them, they don't need to be prioritized to be done. We removed some projects that were on there that were of maintenance in nature, primarily things that were bridge or embankment type projects that really don't improve level of service or any user benefit, but are things that we need to do. Those will be refactored into our normal maintenance program and our capital improvement program if they're fairly large but are not included in this list. We also updated the cost estimates on several of the projects based upon revised scopes through some of the discussion with each of you. And because of all that, the number of projects declined from 159 to 113, and we had a fairly significant reduction in the overall cost of all of the projects from 549 to 466 million, which is still a large bevy of projects that we need to do, but it did reduce the amount that was there. Just as a quick snapshot, as you see here, broken down by district, where the projects are by dollar value. Doesn't always line up by number of projects that way. The multi-district projects are those that are obviously across more than one district. Examples would be Victoria Avenue widening, Pleasant Valley Road widening, the Wainimi Road, Las Posas bike lanes, several other projects like that. This is a shot from the project list, and this essentially takes the top 10 projects. We added the 2 columns to the left to be able for you to see where these were on the previous list as opposed to the current list. 8 of the 10 projects that were on the initial list that we provided a year ago are still on this list. The two that are not, one was a Moore Park Road widening from 2 to 4 lanes. When we did the research, we learned that this was actually removed from the general plan in November 2005 by your board, and so we obviously took that project off. And then the Pleasant Valley Road bike lane project is still on, but when we added the safety criteria, it dropped from number 10 to number 20 on the list, so that's why it's not in the top 10. Of note, of these top 10 projects, they, as listed here, they account for 30% of the dollar value of all the 113 projects. And that would make some sense if you think about that we're trying to focus on user benefit. Those roads with a higher average daily traffic are those that we would want to be doing work on, and therefore they tend to be the more complex projects of either widening, adding lanes, and those sorts of things. And 4 of those top 10 projects are over $15 million in cost.
If I can interrupt, we can move one more up into that top 10 because we have to take out the number 9 one, the Wendy Road one, because there's no way we would restripe that one, or Wendy Drive actually. It has its striping to 4, and in this area, while it's required in the general plan, or it's mentioned in the general plan, this is something that would be highly objectionable to the neighborhood there because their homes front right onto that street. Making it into a 4-lane road would be really destructive of their quality of life. So I've asked Dave to give that a big fat 0 in terms of popularity, and I think that would drop it from that list, allow for another to hopefully to move up, and then also would ask that when we do make the motion that we also include when they get around to doing the general plan amendment on the circulation element, that we remove this 4-laning of this small, really residential street, small section of Wendy, very residential.
Why this list is important, other than getting a sense from your board of what you believe we need to be moving forward from a detailed perspective on what's our general plan, is it helps as we start looking at funding, and that's really what the whole issue for all of these are, is looking for sources of funding. Should you approve this list, we will use it for our grant applications. We'll use it to incorporate into our 5-year capital improvement program. And also, a key is to look at our budget needs. As all of you are aware, sitting on the Transportation Commission, we frequently hear at those meetings the number 1 project in the county is the 10123, and it's great that we're moving forward on that. What I hope to be able to do is take our first project or a project off this list as you desire and start working with the commission to allow us to move up on a list like that so that we might have some opportunity. Many of these projects, particularly those in the top 10 that you see here, have been in our general plan for over 20 years. They've been in the congestion management plan for a while, and as we all know, with the county growing, the traffic is going to continue to be a challenge for us on many of these areas.
Do you think you'll get all 113 of these projects done in the next couple of years?
I'd love to be a hopeless optimist and say yes, but no. Again, I really believe that just have, yes, sir. But just having this will give us an opportunity and then to start seeking funding, and that's really the key for what we want to do.
Dave, when Supervisor Parks just pulled out that restriping, you also say surface repairs. Is there something that has to be done on that road? I'd hate to
if there are minor surface repairs, we would do that separately as a maintenance issue. Okay. And as we discussed, and we discussed this both when I came and spoke with her initially and then earlier before this meeting, because it's in the general plan and we have the set criteria, that's where it falls where it is. But obviously, if there's no community support, we put a 0 on there and it goes to the bottom. I know we've got other concerns on other projects in the county that, from a strictly traffic perspective, are things that we would likely, you would look at and say we need to do that, but there's not either a community desire or political or other reasons why we would want to do those, and that's where that community support factor comes in and gives me then the sense of where we need to go on those.
You know, it is very helpful to have this system now you put in place that you score and you look at the criteria, and so that is very helpful for the supervisor to bring up Wendy. That's been one for 20 years that people just, no way would they ever agree to that. the other improvements on speed and other things that can be done in that area for that residential community on that very wide street. But you absolutely know the community well. They've been resisting that one for decades.
And just finally, the recommended board actions is to receive and approve, file and approve the strategic plan, the criteria in the list.
Mr. Chair? Number one, I really appreciate this ranking. I think you get good government when you sort of try to get these you try to come up with some objective standards and apply them. And I think when it comes to the road work, outside of what we heard from Supervisor Parks regarding Windy Road, I think this is a good listing. It's as good as we can get in terms of, I like trying to use some scientific criteria and not just have it be where the greatest political pressure happens to come from for the day. When it comes to the bike improvements, we just have less data to work with. We don't have level of service, we don't have average daily trip information, and so when you try to apply the criteria, I think you're less likely to come up with something that you go, hey, this all adds up and makes sense. And so I took the bike projects that are in District 1, and I've driven all of them here, to try to take a look at them and stuff. And so there's just one change that I would like to recommend, that is to think, within District 1, makes sense, from my standpoint. And so to be clear on it, it's item, and by the way, I asked that question about, are we going to get all 113 of these done? I don't think we're going to get down to the things I'm bringing up right now, but it makes sense as we start the process at some point in time. A long time from now, we'll work our way down this list, and there may be some possibility that this makes a difference. But item 16, the Telegraph Road bike lane, is a $14 million project, and
16?
16, yeah. Item 16. It's a $14 million project. And it is used by bicyclists frequently. There's a route that, some people ride from Santa Paula to Ventura, but it's used mostly, I think, recreationally, as people do the loop from Ventura to Santa Paula to Ojai and back around. It has at least a 4-foot border on it, on almost every place on Telegraph, and is not one that, as I've had lots of communication with the bicyclist community, it's not one that they go, hey, this is one we really feel like our lives are on the line, even though there have been some accidents on that road and others. One was a drunk driver, and things that probably wouldn't have been saved by changes. But there are others where there is no shoulder at all, and I think of some of them going up by Lake Casitas, where people are pulling the boats, and you've got no shoulder, and the boat is, somebody with a car and the boat trailer trying to get by. So there are 3 projects also in my district that I think would be, what I would suggest is the 3 projects I'm going to propose are for $3 million. So it actually improves the chances that you get to items 17, 18, 19, if you're interested in those, by replacing a $14 million project at item 16, replacing them with 3 projects that are $3 million, and move those up and just move this down. So my motion would be that in Exhibit 2, that Project 16, the Telegraph Road bike lane, be moved into position of Project 44, and that Project 44 and 45 and also Project 93 be moved into numbers and become numbers 16, 17, and 18. So you move the $3 million for those 3 projects up. The first one is the Rice Road Bike Lane, which is a Safe to School project, and I just think that because it's a Safe to School project, it has slightly higher priority than the other 2. And the other one is a Santa Ana Road Bike Lane project, and then the Casitas Vista Road shoulder. Those are what I really appreciate the list. I think all the road stuff is good. I think the bike stuff is just harder to get good data, and so I'm just trying to put some common sense to this. And these are roads that have no shoulder at all versus a road that has a 4-foot shoulder. So that's would be my request. As I make the motion, I'd like to make the motion to modify the list. Why don't I do that first? Yeah.
As you mentioned, bike lanes, Santa Rosa Road used to have, we probably would have that improvement on here, but we decided as a board to change it from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes in the general plan, so I think it lost that opportunity. But I would like, while it has a narrow bike lane, that is also a very important connector between the cities, and it's not even on the list. So I would like to have that evaluated and put where you believe it would go in terms of costs and use and all that. But that is an important one that I'd like to have added too. But I support your moving around your bike lanes. It's almost worth a separate discussion, to talk about bike lanes. But I support your motion and would like to also ask that we add in Santa Rosa bike lane where we can make that a safer one.
So part of the motion would be to direct staff to analyze the Santa Rosa bike lane and figure out where it fits in here. Right. Okay.
Those are fine. Again, what we have on here that are bike lanes came out of the bike master plan, which the commission, as it updates, will certainly consider those. I would like to point out we did use separate criteria for the bike lanes, and we used, and part of this has to do with getting funding, and we used the connectivity to other modes of transportation. We also used the Federal Highway Administration Bicycle Compatibility Index. So we didn't try to use what we used for the roads. When we did these, we did set up a separate criteria.
Yeah, and I realize that we spent a fair amount of time trying to figure, analyzing the criteria that you use, and it's just not as precise. It's more subjective criteria than level of service, for example, and those things. So I do realize that, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate being able to talk with you, and Mr. Fleisch been very good about sharing the criteria, what went into this, and again, I think we have something that's pretty scientific, and with this one change, I'd be supportive of that. So I'd like I'll make the motion to approve staff's recommended action with the change that I just offered, and I'll repeat that project 16 move to project 44, and that 44, 45, and 93 be moved up to be 16, 17, and 18, and the others be changed. And also that the Santa Rosa Road bike lane be analyzed and appropriately placed in the list with where your criteria would suggest that it be placed.
As well as the change to Wendy Drive,
Yes.
that we don't restrike it.
Right.
When you, Mr. Fleisch, when you do this, your funding is different for roads versus bike trails, bike roads?
We have multiple funding sources for roads and for bike trails, so yes. But
so when you put them up in, does it skew you and what you're doing if you move it up in the list, or how does it?
It shouldn't. Again, depending upon what the application is for the funding. If we're near a school, we can apply for Safe Route to School funding for some of the bike lanes. If we're not, we can't. We can use congestion management and air quality or CMAQ funding both for road projects and for bike lane projects. So it depends. But as we work through this list, it gives, we'll be able to work through those. But in general, it shouldn't cause us any issue to make those adjustments.
And if I could just point out, number one, I think it's going to be a long time.
We know that.
Yeah. And two, replacing a $14 million project with $3 million worth of projects means that there's more CMAQ funding available for the road project number 21 or 22 or whatever that is down the road.
And could I also ask that the motion include requesting planning to take the Wendy Drive 4-laning off the general plan next time we're there looking at the circulation element?
Certainly.
Thanks.
Good. Roberta, do you understand what that motion was? Well, you are good. And do you?
I took good notes, but I'll follow whatever Roberta wrote.
Do you have anything else?
Just, I'm okay with this, because I think what you called out on the Telegraph Road one is correct.
Yeah.
It does have wide shoulders, and although it's, probably for bike enthusiasts, it's not as perfect as it could be, but the other ones that are in need, and are smaller dollar figure projects, and may have greater value to those who are the enthusiasts for, whether it's for recreational or otherwise. So
thank you.
I think as we, and we know the money's short, and we know that we put these in sync with the VCTC work and bikes, then further conversation may come about, but I'm fine with it.
David, I want to thank you too, because that was a question I was going to ask. How do we get it to VCTC? And one of the final things that you have Wright Road up there, and I really appreciate that. We worked with the photo of Wright Road over in El Rio, so.
It's amazing how we got those houses out of there, isn't it?
Very good.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so we have a motion. I think everybody understands the motion. Okay. Thank you, Dave, for all the hard work and your staff does for this.
I would like to thank my staff, actually, especially Ben Amami and Howard DeLeon. They spend a lot of up and down and moving back and forth on this, and I appreciate all of their pushing on this, because all I do is stand up here. They do all the work. So. Thank you.
That's right. Okay, thank you very much. So we now have a presentation from Supervisor Zaragoza.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to call Pedro Chavez up to the podium, and I see he brought quite a few of his
Yes, thank you so
people
much.
with him, and even Captain Hagel with you.
I would love to invite our group here from Big Brothers Big Sisters to
So I
come
have a resolution
and
I'd
receive
like
this
to
honor.
share with you, then I'll go down and present it to you. This is a resolution from the Board of Supervisors proclaiming Big Brothers and Big Sisters National Mentoring Month, which is January 2013. Whereas January hereby is designated as National Mentoring Month, as Big Brothers Big Sisters continues their long-standing history and tradition, as one of the largest and most effective youth mentoring organizations in our community and the nation. Everyday mentors in the community across our community provide crucial support and guidance to young people, as we can see here today. Whether a day spent helping with homework, playing catch, just listening, those moments can have an enormous lasting effect on a child's life. During National Mentoring Month, we recognize those who give generously of themselves by mentoring young Americans. Big Brothers and Big Sisters evidence-based outcomes that demonstrates the value of mentoring, its overall impact on community and society. Mentors are building brighter future for our community, for helping our youth to grow into productive, engaged, and responsible adults. Mentors improve academic performance and build greater self-esteem, lower crime rates, reduce violence and gang involvement, discourage alcohol and drug abuse, lower the incidence of teen pregnancy, and help youth learn how to assume their positive place in this world. Whereas Big Brothers Big Sisters provide a high-impact preventive mentoring model in its community and site-based monitoring programs throughout Ventura County and neighboring communities that improve the lives of more than 1,500 children and their families for better and forever. Whereas the County of Ventura joins the Big Brothers and Sisters by supporting innovative youth mentoring programs that help children and youth achieve their full potential in schoolwork and life. Whereas the month of January 2013 has been designated as National Mentoring Month, and the theme of this year is Mentoring Works, which is demonstrated through our positive youth outcomes. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Ventura County does hereby proclaim January 13 as National Mentoring Month and urges all county residents to give back by mentoring young people in their communities, and you may be those role models, and pass that precious gift on to the next generation. And I'll present this to you, Councilor.
Great, thank you. If I can have the Big Brothers Big Sisters support our big family here that we have. I'd like to introduce a couple folks to you. As you all know, Commander Hagel here. He is one of our members of our board of directors, and we have such a strong group represented from across Ventura County. We actually have, we work through partnerships, so we'd like to introduce Michael Tapia, who is a principal at Montava Elementary School, which is a first lunchtime mentoring program that we launched in Ventura County, and we now have 4, 2 in La Colonia and 2 in Ventura, 1 in East and 1 in West. I'd like to introduce Lisa Meeker, our Chief Development Officer, and some of the Big Brothers Big Sisters staff members that are here today that run the programs at either a school site or either at another nonprofit organization like a Boys and Girls Club, Many Mansions, or a YMCA location. And that's Amelia and Alice. And then Dea. I'd like to also introduce, as you know, I got introduced to Big Brothers Big Sisters as a big primarily, and Arlen Vera, who was 13 when we started, is now 16 and doing great in school. So we're really excited about the impact mentoring has on lives like Arlen's. And their parents who are involved here with their kids. And if you can have the kids come up and say your name and say the name of your lunch buddy. Come come on up. Don't be scared. These are our elected officials, so today we give a civics. Say your name and who your lunch buddy is.
Hello, my name is Kyle, and my lunch buddy's name is Samuel.
What do you like best about Samuel?
He's from the Navy.
He's in the Navy. He's one of our military mentors that spends time with Kyle each week at his local school. Thank you, Kyle. Come on, Nicole. Nicole's famous because she was in the paper. She was in Ventura County Star, an article promoting our Lunch Buddies program. So say your name and tell me about your lunch buddy.
My name is Nicole, and my buddy's name is Danielle.
Okay. What do you like best about Danielle?
He's funny.
Okay. And this is, I'll close my ears. This is my lunch buddy, Kenneth. So I won't have him say anything about me.
My name
So say who you are.
My name is Kenneth.
And what do you like best about the program?
That you get to have lunch buddies.
And these are the 3 kids that we have we have 30 kids in the county that have lunch buddies, and we have a need for 90. So this is really, National Mentoring Month is really about a call to action for everyone in the community to take time out of their day and become a mentor to a child and make a difference so that we can guide them in the right trajectory in life to become responsible, engaged, and involved citizens. So with that said, we want to end by just taking a group photo with John and group, and Tim wants to say a few words.
Present this to Captain Hagel.
Yes, to present Captain Hagel to Lisa Meeker. And
You want to share a couple of words?
Thank you, Supervisor Zaragoza and Chairman Foy and the board. I want to thank you on behalf of Big Brothers Big Sisters. I joined Big Brothers Big Sisters because I realized that that's the way it's got to go in law enforcement. The 1960s model of just hooking everybody up, putting them away in jail, doesn't work. We have to partner. And the sheriff has made it very clear, I might point out, he doesn't even know I'm speaking here right now. He does now. He was a big brother, also in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And my son's a big brother. And it's the way, if we're going to intelligently lead policing in Ventura County and partner with the community, you've got to do it at the grassroots. So for every one of these children that we put a role model, there's only 2 types of role models, good and bad. So Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, One Step Olives, all these community groups, the CBO list is huge, but the partnership is important for law enforcement, and that's why I'm with Big Brothers Big Sisters. So I'm proud of all of these bigs and large, big sisters, big brothers, and the littles, as we say. I'm proud of them, and it comes from the heart. So I'm really proud of all of them, and from the rest of the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you.
Captain Hagel, I just want to say one thing. One, I appreciate all these people stepping up to be mentors and pointing out we do need more people stepping forward to be mentors. But I think one of the things I think is really true is you are increasing the credibility of the Sheriff's Department by this involvement and Sheriff Dean's involvement. And by recognizing it's bigger, you actually are a much more effective force, and you have more credibility when you do traditional policing also and stuff. So thank you very much for your leadership there.
Mr. CEO, is there a way we could post the opportunity for county employees who'd like to be a lunch buddy?
Absolutely. We'll put it online. We'll put it on our county website. This is great, and great job to the littles. And the bigs. Great job. Great presentations. Really good.
You want to say anything? The principal would like to share a couple of words.
I just want to say that we are very grateful that we have this partnership. It's proactive, it's positive, and it does make a difference. Building relationships with one another is so critical these days. And so we are very fortunate that we're the only school in Ventura Unified, right? Is that correct? Well, we now have 4. Okay, now we have, but we were first. Okay, this is our second year of implementation, and we're very grateful. So thank you so much, because it does make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I forgot my one plug that I had to do. How fortuitous that you're talking about bike lanes in Ventura County, and we came out. Big Brothers Big Sisters is holding the first 100-mile bike ride fundraiser for Big Brothers Big Sisters on April 6th all around Ventura County to support mentoring programs in Ventura County. That's April 6th. That's the first year, so hopefully we're going to get people out there. 100 miles around Ventura County.
Steve?
Yeah, it's a lot to organize, I'll tell you. You know, it's harder than you think to pull that together in terms of volunteers. So.
Thank you so much.
One more. Hold on. Pedro, get it?
Come on, Pedro. Vote for Pedro.
Vote for Pedro. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Conrad. Thank you, Conrad. Thank you.
Yes, I'm ready. It's going to be kind of hard to follow that one. Good morning, Chairperson Foy, members of the board, and CEO Powers. For the record, my name is Peter Shade. I'm the Deputy Director in the Design and Construction Division of the Watershed Protection District. I'm joined here today by Zoe Carlson, Environmental Planner, and also Pam Lindsay, the Environmental Manager for the Watershed Protection District, as well as David Stone of DUDEC, our consultant that prepared the secret document in front of you today. We're here today to request certification of the final mitigated negative declaration for the Faro Ditch Channel Improvements Project and approval of the project and modification of the project work plan for the Beardsley Watershed Project. I will briefly describe the project, and Zoe will then come up and discuss the secret process that we followed. We'll then be able to answer any questions that you have. The Faro Ditch is a currently actively maintained district facility that conveys water from the Faro Debris Basin through Beardsley Wash and finally to the Magoo Lagoon in the ocean. The ditch is earthen with several concreted rock stabilizer structures throughout the reach. The Faro Ditch Channel Improvements Project is located in the south central unincorporated area of the county just west of the city of Camarillo. The project's downstream limit is at Highway 118 between the intersection of Highway 118 and Santa Clara Avenue and 118 and Clubhouse Drive, as shown at the bottom of the photo on the slide. The improvements will be made from Highway 118 upstream to Faro Dam, a distance of approximately 1,700 linear feet or 0.3 miles. If approved, the proposed project would be included in the Beardsley Watershed Plan that was originally developed by the district in partnership with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, an agency within the United States Department of Agriculture, and the Ventura County Resource Conservation District in 1966 to implement flood control improvement projects to protect agricultural lands in the Beardsley watershed. The development of this plan was prompted by flood events experienced during the previous 30 years. The worst flood during that time was in 1938, which caused about 2,800 acres to be inundated. Since 1970, the NRCS has funded 29 phases of construction under the authority of the Beardsley and Revlon watershed projects to protect agricultural lands for a total construction cost of $49.8 million. Once funds become available from NRCS, construction of the Faro Ditch Channel Improvements Project would be completed, and that would be the final implementation phase of the Beardsley Watershed Plan. The existing Faro Ditch has a capacity to contain approximately a 10-year flood event. At that amount, above that amount, it is expected that the channel will be overtopped, cutting off the sole access that the district has to the Faro Dam. The objective of the project are first to increase the channel's capacity to a 50-year flood event plus freeboard, thus protecting adjacent agricultural farmlands from flooding, increase public safety by by improving access to the Faro debris basin dam for emergency and routine maintenance, reducing risk of dam failure, damage to surrounding properties, and potential loss of life downstream, reduce long-term channel maintenance costs, and finally improve the water quality by reducing erosion in the watershed. The photo that you see before you now is taken from the toe of the dam looking downstream to the reach that we're considering here today. So the proposed project. This is a conceptual drawing of the proposed project with the red dotted line as the existing cross-section. The ditch will be made deeper and wider to a final width at the bottom of 7 feet. The channel slopes would be converted from a steep 1-to-1 slope that they currently have to a 2-to-1 slope, and the banks and bottom would be lined with loose rock. Access roads would be improved by widening them and concreting the rock on the road shoulder to provide additional stability and safety. And with that, I will now turn the podium over to Zoe Carlson, who will elaborate on the CEQA process.
Thank you, Peter. Chairperson Foy, members of the board, CEO Powers. For the record, my name is Zoe Carlson. I'm an environmental planner for the Watershed Protection District. In order to implement this project, we must go through the CEQA process in order to disclose potentially environmentally significant impacts, as well as ask the public for their comment and input on the project. We prepared a draft initial study and mitigated negative declaration and submitted it for a 30-day public review period beginning July 9th, 2012. We mailed copies to adjacent landowners, stakeholders, regulatory agencies, and other interested parties. We posted a copy on our website and placed it in 5 local libraries. Excuse me. And we also published notices in the local newspaper. Since the project will widen the existing ditch and line it with rock, there will be some loss to productive agricultural land and change in biological function. The 0.8 acres of agricultural land that will be impacted is not considered a significant impact according to the Ventura County guidelines. The change in biological function is considered potentially significant, and mitigation measures have been included to reduce these impacts to a less than significant level. The ditch is regulated by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, the California Department of Fish and Game, which is now the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The rock placed in the channel will improve water quality by preventing erosion, but placement of rock in an earthen channel is viewed by the regulatory agencies as a new permanent impact to biological resources. We will conduct 2 acres of riparian habitat restoration nearby to offset these impacts. The district will also ensure that we avoid disturbance to nesting birds during construction. And additional standard mitigation measures have been included in the Mitigation Measure Monitoring Program to further reduce less than significant impacts. These are standard best management practices that the district uses for all our projects to ensure contractors maintain compliance with local laws and ordinances. We did receive written comment from 4 agencies and 1 individual as listed here, and these are included in Appendix B of the final mitigated negative declaration. A response was provided for every comment, and I'll touch on just a few of them today. But none of the comments or our responses required new additional mitigation measures. We received a comment letter from the California Department of Fish and Game. They are in support of the site we selected to offset our impacts to biological resources. They were concerned that the proposed project design may need pest control and recommended that the district design all our channel improvement projects in a way that minimizes the need for rodenticide use. The district did take this into consideration and looked at fully lining the channel with concrete instead of the proposed loose rock design. However, the concrete line channel would fully eliminate all ecological function within the Faro ditch and therefore is considered a less environmentally preferable alternative to the proposed design. The district will continue to monitor the Faro ditch facility to determine if rodent control is required per our integrated pest management program. We also received a comment letter from an adjacent property owner. He was concerned that we did not evaluate the impacts to groundwater quantity in terms of the project's potential to increase groundwater infiltration. In the landowner's experience, the groundwater level is already too high on his property and affects his agricultural production. While the Ventura County guidelines for impact analysis focus on the project's potential to decrease groundwater infiltration, the district decided to conduct additional hydrological analysis in order to address this landowner's concern. The analysis determined that there would be no increase in infiltration of surface water to groundwater as a result of the project. And the full analysis can be found as Appendix E of the final mitigated negative declaration. If the Board of Supervisors certifies the final mitigated negative declaration and approves the project, the district will file a notice of determination with the state clearinghouse and may proceed with implementing the project. The district will then prepare final plans and specifications and acquire additional right-of-way. The Natural Resources Conservation Service will then pursue funding for the project's construction, and we will come back to the Board of Supervisors to approve the bid documents, award of contract, and approve a funding agreement with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Summarizing the 9 recommendations in the board letter, we request your board certify and adopt the final mitigated negative declaration, mitigation measure monitoring program, authorize the director of the Watershed Protection District to sign the notice of determination, and approve and sign the supplemental watershed agreement. And with that, we are available to answer any questions you may have.
It's a good presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions anybody have on this at all? No? Must have done a very good job. Everybody's very thorough.
11:59, too.
Yeah, you're right on time. That's great.
I do appreciate the fact that instead of, cementing over all the rock and all, that we're trying to keep it as natural and ecological as possible. I'm not so sure that rodenticides are that important in something that isn't a dam or something like that. So, good judgment there. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it looks like the land you're taking is just because you've extended that road a little bit. It
Absolutely.
looks like most of it's not being used right now, planted in your pictures anyway, so. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. That's very good. Thank you very much. Waiting on somebody else to vote. It's supposed to be on time. Is the system slow? Okay, so we've all voted? There you go. Great. Well, thank you very much. We are going to... Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody want to make a comment on this at all? No? Now it's closed. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so that's done. We're going to go to closed session. Leroy, do we expect any announcement out of closed session?
We do not expect any announcements.
Okay, then we'll adjourn out of closed session. Thank you.